as people are coming in, we're going to begin. Welcome to the regular meeting agenda of, excuse me, I've been on vacation, so let me start again. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Delray Oaks City Council. Tonight is Tuesday, July 27, and it is 6 o'clock. Karen, could you please do roll call?
Councilmember Shirley?
Here.
Councilmember Donaldson?
Here.
Councilmember Gagliotti?
Here.
Vice Mayor Lintel? Mayor Kerr?
I'm here. John,
Madam Chair, if I could, point of order.
point of order?
What I would like to do is propose a change to the sequence on the agenda. You placed the FORTAG item as our lowest priority for today's meeting.
No,
and
not
I think
the
the
lowest
majority
priority.
of the people that are going to be on this call today are here for that item. And I think it's unfair to them to have them wait around. So I would like to make a motion that we move item 6D to a position underneath the consent agenda.
So my concern is we're going to have Denise Duffy here, and she is on the payroll. So I would like to offer an alternate and to put it as the first item of new business.
Now, I've already made a motion to have it put under the consent agenda. If I could get a second.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and second it. We can go ahead and move it. But I want to bring up one point. I just got a text from somebody said that the Zoom ID on the website is throwing an error. But I see everyone still filling in, so people are making it. Maybe they're doing. Maybe the agenda is correct. I used the one that was in the agenda, but on the website it's not correct.
Randy, if you could check that out, that would be great.
Okay. So there's a vote. Where do I start? John Gagliotti.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's just handle it. It shouldn't take that long. Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Pat.
She's muted. Pat, you muted.
Muted, Pat.
Aye.
Kim.
Aye.
Okay, and Allison. Okay, we're going to move forward. John, could you start us off with the Pledge of Allegiance?
Me, John Gagliotti.
You, John Gagliotti.
I will do that. I pledge allegiance.
The link doesn't work.
Say again.
The link on the website for the DRO does not work, and I don't think you guys should start the meeting until they get that fixed, quite frankly.
So we're going to.
Let's finish the pledge of allegiance and then we can address that.
Yes, I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. So Karen, any suggestions? We're seeing people show up.
Let me give Randy a call.
Okay.
Mayor, based on the situation that we have right now, I don't mind amending then to have that old business item heard while we get or allow more people to come on to the meeting.
So is your motion to move it to the first part of the new business?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll take the amendment.
Okay.
I'll second.
Kim,
That's fine.
Pat,
Yes.
John,
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
All right. So it passes. So on that note, what we're going to do is, if you think that the majority of people are here for the FORTAG, or that will be coming for the FORTAG item, what I'd like to do is move forward on public comments. We can always adapt that if somebody comes and has something that is not on the agenda. I'm seeing more and more people come, so let's move forward. So public comments. if everyone could mute, please. Great. So before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that we are a small community and all of us love this place we call home. If you choose to share comments with the council this evening, I ask that you do it with respect. We can have different items or ideas on items without personal attacks or being derogatory. So on that, it is now time for general public comments. Anyone wishing to address the city council on matters not appearing on the agenda may do so now. You may comment on any other matter listed on the agenda at the time the matter is being considered. There is a time limit of no more than 3 minutes per speaker. No action will be taken on matters brought up under this item, and all comments will be referred to staff. So on that, please raise your computer hand and we will get your public comments.
Some of us can't get on by computer. We don't know how to raise our hands.
Okay,
If we call in, we don't raise our
So-
hand.
Patrice? Oh, sorry, I was just admitting her. Anyone for any general public comment not dealing with a matter on the agenda?
I have a comment, but I can't raise my hand because we can't Zoom.
Well, I can see Roberta. Roberta, is that you that's speaking?
Hi, this
No,
is
it's-
Roberta, and I wanted to make a comment about the situation at hand. When you click on the link on the website, it says meeting does not exist. So if you try to utilize the link that's available on the website, you are taken to a link that says the meeting does not exist. That's why so many people are calling in and aren't able to access. So I just wanted to announce that to the council as a whole as to why people aren't able to get on there. If you're able to enter in the meeting ID on its own in Zoom, if you understand how to do that, you can. But I must say that this makes the meeting very exclusive for people who struggle with technology.
Thank you, Roberta.
Mayor, just so you know, I did have Randy check it. It is working now. I'm not sure what's going on. It's
Okay.
technology.
So I think a lot of the folks are here for FORTAG, and we have moved it to the first new business item. So we have a little time and to help this all get settled. So we're going to move on.
Wait,
Um,
I'm sorry, I can't log on, but I do have a general comment.
Okay, who is this? What is your name?
This is Kathy Palazzolo on Angelus.
Okay, Kathy,
and-
go ahead.
So first, I'd like to object to if the link isn't working properly, you're putting a lot of people at a disadvantage. And once again, things are going to be discussed where not everybody has the access to say what they want to say. You know, giving people a couple of minutes to download Zoom to get it worked out isn't fair at all. Okay, that being said, I'd like to talk about the noise at the park. I live on Angeles. There was a very, very loud party on Saturday. Amplified music, a guy with a microphone all day. Horrible. Couldn't even enjoy my outside time at my own house. Couldn't even go in my house and close the doors and enjoy my time. I called law enforcement several times. I was told there was nothing they could do at all because they had a permit and they could be there until sunset. Around a little after sunset, when it's dark and there's still loud music, still on the microphone, still rattling my walls, I started calling again. Long story short, it was well after dark before it was shut down. People didn't leave the park until about 10 o'clock. Dusk, sunset are kind of arbitrary terms for people. I'm hoping that the city will say that they won't allow any amplified music anymore and maybe shut the park down at 7 p.m. during the summer. I mean, we should have the right to enjoy some peace and quiet in our house. I think if people left by 7, that should be fine. By the time they shut down their music and then load up and get out, we're dealing with traffic noise and people noise for a couple hours after the event ends. And it's just ridiculous. And then to have one city employee tell us they did not have a permit was interesting. And to have another city employee tell us they do have a permit was, you know, very disconcerting. So, and then I'm receiving a text from somebody that says, oh, I'm sorry. So is there any way you guys can put out an appropriate link that works so we don't have to play this game?
We actually checked it on our end, Mayor, and everything is working on our end. It's Zoom. I had Randy check it.
It's not working on our end. It says meeting does not exist. Even some of the, when I called the media to tell them that this is going on, they're finding the same problem.
Mayor, if I might, is it possible for the public to click into the agenda online and it's the agenda link, the proper link? Is that an alternative, or is it one and the same with the online link?
So the
It's the
agenda,
same
can I just point out, I know we're totally out of order right now, but the agenda link is a PDF and you have to copy it and put it in. It's not a clickable link.
I had to key in the link in order to get in tonight.
I'm sorry, Pat, what was that? You had to create a what?
I had to key in the link.
Right, you had to enter in the numbers.
Right,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Yes, yes. So, into the program.
That could be something for a future. It is easy. It is possible to make that link in the agenda, in a PDF, a linkable, a hyperlink,
Yes,
but for the future.
okay. So that's being worked on and there is a solution. Are there any other public comments?
Oh, hello?
I see Amy Wigg.
Okay, Ms. Wick?
Yes, it's Catherine Barley is right here.
Okay, so here's what you can do. Jim Clark helped me out. You just you open up your browser, you go to
So can I ask everyone to please mute themselves unless I call on you for your comment? Thank you.
So
Ms. Wigg?
Yes,
It's me.
Catherine Barley is here with me and she's gonna speak.
Okay,
Okay, so Jim Clark helped me. You could put this on your website if people are having trouble. Just open up a browser, go to www.zoom.com, and then you type in the meeting ID, and that's how we had to get in. So if there's a problem, maybe you could put that on your website, put the www.zoom.com link right there and the ID right underneath it. And then all they have to do is go into that and type the ID in and they can get in.
gotcha. Thank you. Any other public comments about anything not on the agenda this evening?
Yes, this is Scott Morgan.
I'm sorry, it's who?
Scott Morgan.
Okay, Scott, go ahead.
Hi, Madam Mayor and council members and Chief Hoynes. During the last meeting, I pointed out we still have a high fire danger in the green belt next to the park. I don't know if anything has been done, and I'd still like to sound like a broken record and say the creek is severely overgrown and a danger for flooding. This is very frustrating not being able to get into the meeting on the Zoom link. So there's a lot of elderly people that are going to be frustrated tonight. Maybe we ought to postpone the meeting and do it when everybody is able to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Karen, do you see any other hands? Any other public comment on things not on the agenda?
I'm not seeing
Okay.
anybody.
We'd like to speak, please.
Oh, okay, please.
Hello, it's Tammy and Ray Reyes on 24 Saucito. And we would just again like to emphasize the importance for putting speed humps or bumps or something on Carlton to slow down the traffic so it's safer for people and also for our animals. And in the 24 years we've lived here, I've been as vocal as a quiet, introverted person can be. I hope our city council will consider this. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, so what I'm going to do is, does anyone on the council want to pull anything on the consent agenda? Seeing none, does anyone in the public want to pull a consent agenda item? Karen, do you see any? Amy, do you have something? Kathy?
Can you clarify, what do you mean? We don't know what you mean.
So a consent agenda is items that are either regular business or things that have been discussed. And if there's an item on there that you would like to discuss, you can pull it.
Okay, so we wanted to, the flag policy.
So this is just the consent agenda, which if you look at the agenda, it's item number 4. And there's an A, B, and C. So it's monthly reports, it's minutes, and it's miscellaneous items. The flag policy is under new business, and we will address that on its own.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other public comments on items not on the agenda? Oh, sorry. Whew. Okay, consent agenda. I'm sorry, this has gotten off a rocky start. I will entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I move approval of the consent agenda as published.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, time for a vote. Ms. Lintel.
Aye.
John Gagliotti.
Aye.
Scott Donaldson.
Aye.
Kim Shirley.
Aye.
And I approve as well. So it passes unanimously. What I'd like to do is move forward to the old business item 5A, an update on agreement for general plan assistance with Cal Poly University. And then what we will do, if we continue to hear about technical issues, we will take a recess and everyone can text everyone directions how to work it and go from there. But what we're going to do is we're going to discuss the general plan and then we'll take a recess if it's necessary. So Acting City Manager Hoyne.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council, and our guests this evening. There's been discussion and past discussion at City Council about a possible general plan update through using university resources from Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. We discussed this at the last City Council meeting. Staff was directed to answer several questions and do some follow-up to get more clarity on what it would involve and what it would cost the city. I believe, and I apologize because I have limited access and I only have my iPad with me. I'm out of town on business. So I don't know if Denise Duffy is still here. Denise Duffy and our city attorney, Alex Lorca, and I were directed to get some reviews from some of the communities that have used this resource in the past and speak further with the program director about oversight and supervision and other issues that council had questions on. We have done that follow-up, and Denise and Alex are here to update us on that. I would like to add that I've logged in twice off of the website link from the city for the Zoom meeting and was successful in logging in both times. So it's, I would urge you, if you're still on your phone, you may want to try and log in on Zoom again. It looks like it was something on the Zoom's end. So with that, I will turn it over to Denise Duffy and to Alex Lorca, and I guess you guys can determine who is more appropriate to start the update.
Alex, with your permission, I'll start.
By all means, please.
Thank you. My name is Denise Duffy. As a consulting planner for the city, we looked into the Cal Poly approach that was brought before the council last week and discussed at previous meetings for a preparation of a student prepared with oversight by an experienced professional general plan for the city. The city was provided the scope and idea whereby the general plan would be updated by master students from Cal Poly and the experienced professor who's done this, I think, a number of times, perhaps up as much as 16 times before. The idea is twofold. It's to provide both the students an opportunity for a learning experience to understand a general plan process, immerse themselves into general plan policy and outreach as a learning tool, as well as it provides the city an opportunity to be able to have a general plan updated within a certain specific time frame within the scholastic year, as well as a reduced cost, especially compared to what we would consider to be a plan prepared by experienced, if you will, consultants in the field. The council's hearing last week considered and discussed this approach quite a bit. The council, I think, voted that this idea had merit, but asked for additional information, certain questions, how the process would work, and the city's ability to have some management over the project process, a few other questions. So we were asked, Alex Lorca and I were asked to follow up with the professor running the program to explore some of the flexibility questions and management questions, and to continue our role, which is to poll the jurisdictions and see how they have, what their outcome has been and how they appreciated the process. So we had those two specific actions. We also met and reviewed the scopes of work from other firms. We looked at the general plans, and I looked at the previous EIRs from a number of different jurisdictions. We had a very lengthy call with the professor, who's great to talk with. He would be the one overseeing the study and the preparation, and then we asked him some specific questions as were directed by council. The questions framed, the first ones I'm just going to go through and answer as we thought they were asked. They all go into the categories of timing, flexibility, and management, as the council minutes resulted in. And then afterwards, I'll provide an overview of what the reviewers had to say. The first question was, could a specific plan as opposed to a citywide general plan be prepared as part of the class effort? That was one question. And the answer from the professor is no, and the rationale is pretty basically correct. It's from his perspective and the Cal Poly's, this is a student outcome they really want to have, and the class is a general plan preparation class. So we wouldn't be able to just ask them to prepare for a specific area of the city at this juncture. They've already gone too far through that process, and that's his class. The other question was, what about breaking up the work itself? Their first work is they go through 3 quarters. The first quarter, which starts in September, ends in December, provides the students come out, do a land use inventory, do a lot of outreach to the public, and then at the end of that, they prepare a report that's called an inventory, which is what happens in all general plan processes, and it's your inventory of all the different elements and background setting for the city. So the second part of the class is the policy preparation and actual land use preparation, land use map preparation. So the question was, could you break up the process and just complete the land use inventory and not do the second part of the process, which is, I think, a specific question raised by this council, one of the council members. And the answer is no, really, because of the same reason. It needs to be a full quarter program. The other questions were related to what is your flexibility in terms of management? One or two council members were thinking that, well, you know, if we're going to do this, we want to have our planning department, our city manager really be running the program, being the group that's interacting with the students and making the program, the general plan process run as if it were my, you know, this would be the city manager or me, and they would direct the efforts of the students. And there isn't that flexibility, and Alex, please correct me how I've stayed in this, but this is a class and the class has certain learning outcomes. And so that would be not an opportunity for them to complete that learning outcome from a Cal Poly's perspective. It's also just problematic because they have a syllabus, they have learning outcomes, and they have these different products that are available at certain times. So interjecting another person or a group into that process for that level of management is not feasible in the situation. Alex, do you have anything to add on that, or is that pretty good representation?
No, I think that covers it, absolutely.
Okay, another question was about timing. So timing in a couple of different ways. I think one was the timing of, is there flexibility in terms of the start time? Is going to be done next year, for instance, as opposed to this year? Do we have to start right away? And then just overall timing, I think there's a question in terms of how they met their timeframes. So first part of that, how the students and the professor met their timeframes in terms of their deliverables was overall, you know, from the reviewer standpoint, very well done. They met every schedule, every time frame. So that was no issue at all. And then the going back to the first part of the question, what is, if any, is there any flexibility in terms of the start time for the Cal Poly students to get moving and start working on the general plan? Because they have contractual obligations, the professor basically said, Professor Cornelius said, we really need to know as soon as possible. But the latest possible start time, if we don't know right away, would be in a couple weeks, just to get the decision one way or the other. But really, I think the pressure's on. He would have to get another city on board. And he says that we were competing against other cities and he had selected the city of Delray Oaks. So it's not impossible for him to get another city, but just would really prefer that the decision be made as soon as possible. The other questions about the scope of work and, you know, flexibility in terms of the scope of work. And they have flexibility in the sense of, well, you know, can you add an economic element? Yes, we can do that. Can you not include the housing element? Because we're already in the process. There's a little discussion about whether or not that would be possible for them, because each, again, it's kind of specific to a syllabus, excuse me. Let's see. Yeah, so he would need to sign the contract before the quarter starts at September 15th. And they need the preparation, as well as 2 weeks to go over the paperwork. So just in terms of, Alex, do you have anything to add in terms of our discussion with Professor Cornelius?
No, I think you hit them all with respect to, you know, flexibility of scope, timing, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So quickly then, we reached out to as many people as we could find that had some experience with this process, whereby they were using it at the end and they're implementing the general plan, or three or more of them were actually involved with the preparation process or management of them. Everything's confidential, so we're not giving any names or specific jurisdictions, but generally the consensus for those people, for those jurisdictions who thought that was a good process, was with one caveat. It's like they understood quite clearly we're not getting a quote unquote professionally prepared plan. We're basically getting a reduced cost, reduced version, student prepared plan. And we went in with that acknowledgement. We had to we wanted to get a plan completed in a much smaller budget and within the time frame. Both of those city reps said that they really had an intensive amount of editing effort, but that they, and then there's a fair amount of staff time and planning consultant time to add to their costs, but that overall they were able to get a product out that they think that they can use, at least for the short term. They know this is a plan that is going to help their city because they had a plan, otherwise they wouldn't have one. So the value for them was with the caveat that it's valuable because we have one, and otherwise we wouldn't. Each of the jurisdictions have different variations, but most of the jurisdictions are about the same size as the city of Delray Oaks, more or less, or smaller. Most of them small city government. All of them really with very little level of controversy. I asked that question throughout in terms of major developments and things coming up. So I think that's a distinction. There was a little bit of a mixed effort response on 3 of the respondents, basically in terms of how it was to implement the policies, because as they were prepared by students, a couple people just didn't think that they're implementable at all and had to be redone. Overall, everyone said that the effort in terms of the outreach was commendable, and the students were very enthusiastic and did a good job at outreaching. Some of them were not able to use the GIS post project or utilize some of the work that they had been done, and some of them, specifically said that it is a student prepared plan, and they recommended against it. So it is definitely a mixed bag. The reviewers were highly professional planners, and their standards are high, with decades of experience for each of them. And I'd say on the overall basis, it's really going in with your eyes open if the council wants to do something like this with the students, and to be able to have to understand that your costs are going to be not just the cost for the planning firm, or not just for the Cal Poly, but also for city council review, city attorney review, our review, city manager time, and your city council review. So it could an economic consultant as well, because that would also be a part of it. So you're more than doubling what the cost is going in just by that alone. And so I think that's important to understand. Alex, can you add anything that I missed? So I'm not trying to be as objective as possible here.
No, I think you accurately represented our conversations with the professor. And again, we talked around many different solutions as far as what can be broken up, what can't be broken up. And at the end of the day, as Denise mentioned, from the professor's perspective, the students deserve and should be able to take the process soup to nuts. And so they weren't keen on breaking up portions of it. And while Denise would be updated regularly, it sounded like she wouldn't be able to oversee the process. It's sort of the professor made clear that he's kind of in charge of that and directing the students.
Thank you, Alex. I think, and that was a universal comment by everyone that we spoke to that was, has gone through this process before. It's basically that this is the program they have set up. It works really well for them. And this is the program that they will follow for the reasons that Alex mentioned. Thank you. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Denise and Alex. Let's go to the council. Vice Mayor Lintel, questions?
Yes, I not necessarily a question, but a comment. I don't feel the fact that we can't oversee the project and gear it to our needs, I don't think it's feasible to use them, and especially when the costs are going to exceed the 40,000. That 40,000 plus could go toward getting just the immediate need of the portion of the general plan that we need immediately, and perhaps even cover it. I have no idea. But that would be my recommendation rather than going to Cal Poly.
Okay, Councilman Gagliotti?
Yeah, I just want to confirm a couple of these things. So Denise, there's no flexibility in the timing into it. I mean, we're trying to seat our new city manager, and I think that's going to be mid-August. August when that would happen, or even late August. And Cal Poly they need an answer tonight, basically. They need to know in order for us to stay in their queue. Is that a fair assessment of what, or a fair kind of review of what you heard?
I really want to get a response tonight because
Yeah.
they need to go one way or the other. And I think that's fair. Although he said, Professor Cornelius said it could be up to 1 month before the start of classes, which is September 15th. Essentially, we're there already. So I think Alex will back me up that I think he was really asking to get a decision right away.
Yeah. Okay. And then again, I'm just kind of confirming what I heard, and that is there's also no flexibility in governance. Like it would be they go off into their chambers and then come back and give us a deliverable. What did they? I mean, if that's the case, what is the regular check-in frequency?
So to clarify that, the statement is no flexibility in governance. I mean, it's difficult to understand what that means for some people. So specifically, they have a product of a deliverable at the end of the first quarter, which is a land use inventory, which they do come check in with the public through their public meetings, during that period of time. So we see that. Then they provide a draft product. But in terms of the governance flexibility, I think as Alex reported earlier, they're managing this process and they're managing the products, and we get draft products. And when the draft products are there, the city can provide comments on them. And I think that's probably a fairer way to say it.
Okay, I think I'll accept that. The other thing I was kind of unfair and touched on scope is that, I mean, I would love to be able to say, look, you guys can do, I mean, the inventory is a pretty mechanical thing, and I would love to give them that opportunity to work on that. I'm less open to, no checks, no governance over the next, the next portion of the scope. But that mechanical part, and they're not willing to be flexible on that either. They don't want to take. I guess they're inflexible at piecemealing the scope. Is that okay?
Right. I would use the word that it can't work within their program. The program is for them to students.
Which is the same thing, right?
Okay.
Inflexibility. So, no, I understand. I mean, I understand what you're doing. You have to maintain kind of a professional quorum or decorum. I don't, but I guess I do. But, so, and then what about this? What about the ER defensibility? I mean, I know that it's not a part of this scope. It would be next year, but I mean, you touched on our community is different. It sounds like than these other communities, like not San Luis Obispo, but San Juan Bautista. I mean, I'm working up in that area, and they are not as litigious as this community. In your read, your professional opinion, what do you feel that, or did you ask what the defensibility of the EIR product was in the other jurisdictions?
Did ask about the EIR, and from the majority of the jurisdictions, not all of them use their EIR, it's one person said, well, you're getting a student prepared CEQA document, and it's like a term paper more than a CEQA document in some ways, is what he said. And so I think I would be concerned regarding the, you would have to have a lot of input onto, given our litigious situation in the Monterey Peninsula. Everybody knows most EIRs will get, that are controversial, are going to have someone that has a potential for a lawsuit. And the consensus was that in this kind of an atmosphere, that would be difficult. And the other jurisdictions, the majority of them did not have this level of concern or specific situation with the former Fort Ord or the water situation here in our area.
Exactly. Yeah, which are those are the two third rails that would be. Okay. And then I had one last thing. So yeah, they couldn't use the GIS. That was surprising to hear. because that would be, I mean, that to me is the most important part of the inventory, is having that GIS kind of database. I mean, my general sense is, I mean, my general sense is that, I mean, and I'm a Mustang. I mean, I want to work with these guys, but if you're a consultant, which is what Professor Cornelius is kind of holding themselves out as, is like trying to provide a service that's maybe cheaper and public to jurisdictions that can't afford it, which maybe we fall into that, but I mean, a consultant works on behalf of the client, and this sounds as though the client basically accepts what the consultant is going to deliver. And I guess I totally understand that, but I understand it from Professor Cornelius's position, because he's got a curriculum, and I would love, I want to give, you know, my fellow Mustangs the opportunity to work on something for real, but they've got to be able to work with us, you know, and it doesn't sound as though that's going to be possible. Those are, I guess those are my comments and my questions.
Thanks, John. Councilman Donaldson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think this is a good idea, and I really appreciate the initiative that has been taken with it, but I also share the same concerns that have already been voiced, and mainly focusing around the flexibility, not only in terms of timing, but also who they will ultimately work under. I think it's absolutely critical that the new city manager is on board, so that they can work under the direction of him and Denise Duffy. I think that's absolutely critical, and that's going to take some time for that to happen. And obviously they're not flexible on the timing. And then my other concern would be the mixed reviews regarding the quality of their work. So those are my comments.
I want to make sure the mixed reviews were on the implementation of the policies because of how the policies were written, so that it's pretty clear. And then on their clarification, the GIS could be usable if they had if you had a jurisdiction that was able to access it and use it. So it's a mixed bag in terms of each of the jurisdictions, because most of them none of them really had a planning staff or such. So sorry to interrupt, but I wanted
No, but through the mayor, can I just ask on something that Denise just said, and it was regard to my question, that the inability to use the GIS was the jurisdiction's inability, they didn't have the software to use? Is that what, okay, that's a different thing that's a different character than what I understood. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think
no, that's fine. I'm glad you clarified.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilperson Shirley.
First, I just want to thank Denise and Alex for doing this extra work for us. You know, this was a little bit of a shot in the dark, and I appreciate your expertise in looking at this. I do have a question, Denise and Alex. Did you get a sense that they would be willing to do the general plan update? So in other words, the $40,000 portion plus whatever it cost the city, you know, in addition staff time, without doing the EIR portion, or is that always going to be a package deal?
Denise, I don't recall an answer specifically to that. Is that a two-step thing certain, or were they willing to separate them?
We did kind of explore that a lot, because we wanted to make sure that they understood that the contract and the agreement says just the general plan for under this year. But the professor said they would really not want to, they wanted to do both. I tried to explore that more in terms of, well, would you be able to do a hybrid or something like that in the future, whereby we'd work with you and the students would prepare like maybe a traffic section or something like that. The preference is absolutely, we want to do both. And that was one of the reasons that they chose this city. Because they thought that opportunity would be there and that would happen. But so I don't think that there is that much flexibility, but we did push it because I want to see if it could work. And there could be a potential for some sort of a hybrid, I think is how we ended up, but it's not quite clear how that would work.
Okay. And contract is just for the general plan update, but I suppose they would probably want clarification on whether we'd be interested in also pursuing the EIR after that. Just for comparison purposes, Denise, I know this is putting you on the spot, but can you just educate us on the general plan update portion for what they would provide us for that $40,000? You know, the complete land use inventory plus all the visioning, outreach surveys that would be involved in that, because that's the part I'm obviously really interested in. What's a price comparison that we could expect for the services from a professional? So just we have a number to compare.
So I think I mentioned this last time. They're have a robust set of outreach. They have, you know, all their classes, 16 students developing each element, etc. And then they have the land use inventory, the mapping, as well as policies and alternatives analysis. To do that, there's a jurisdiction that is just redoing their general plan right now, and I think that the lowest it would be for that to occur would be $150,000, and it's a smaller jurisdiction. I found 2 scopes and 2 cost estimates that went before the city for that. I think you can, you know, it could be anything from that up. Does that answer your question?
So 150,000 would be the minimum for the total land use inventory and the visioning and outreach that would be necessary for the general plan up. And would we get a general plan update at the end of that 150,000?
You know, I would even say, because it's just a guesstimate estimate, I would say make it 150 to 200. But yes, the product would be hearings and a general plan at that time, not the EIR.
Right. So then maybe 200,000 versus the 40,000 plus staff time that would be required if we went the Cal Poly route, correct?
Right, 150 to 200 versus the 40,000 plus with specific hours not to be yet understood. But I would just double it to be, if we're going to guesstimate, and then add some time for.
Right. Yeah. So we could even say 80,000, maybe.
I would say 80,000 minimum with everyone's time. Right.
Okay. And the outcome of that product that we would get from Cal Poly at whatever, you know, level of expertise we end up with, would that be beneficial for planner to come in and supplement in some way to sort of make it, bring it to the level that we could then submit it for an EIR? Or is that, you know, even though we may be getting it for a cheaper price, it may not even be worth it? I guess I'm just trying to understand if this is even worth talking about. Again, you know, for me, I love supporting students. I love having the idea of having the start in September. I'm in favor of this timeline. And I feel like this is something we need to do. You know, again, I think with our agenda tonight, it shows, right, we need to both outreach to our residents to hear what they have to say about development. And we need the policy or the blueprints behind it, right? We're talking about the flag display policy tonight, right? So we need policy, we need blueprints and outreach from, you know, to residents. I want to hear what they have to say. And I feel like if we did go the Cal Poly route, that would provide us what we need. And I realize it not be the level that we need it at. So I guess I'm asking Denise, whatever they produce, is that more of a headache for a professional planner, someone who would be doing a consultant who would be doing a general plan update? Or as a city, are we better off just putting an RFQ for these same services and seeing what we get back? I mean, I know in our strategic plan, by August, beginning of August, we're supposed to be looking for funding sources for general plan updates. So I guess I'm just trying to understand, would it even be worth it?
I'm not on the council, so whatever opinion is worth my opinion. I think the land use inventory and everything is really worth it because you have a lot of outreach and you have a lot of baseline data. I think you'd have a lot more rewrite and things like that from what I heard from the reviewers on the policies themselves. And so that really becomes a decision for the council at that point as to where you want to spend your dollars. There's one city that is redoing their general plan that was done by them, by the city students. just within less than 3 years. So that is on one side. On the other side, you have these people that I spoke to that said, well, for us, we knew it's not going to be adequate for us, but it's what we have, and we wanted to get something done. We wanted to come from 0 to 40 or whatever the number is and wait to try and get to 50 to 100. Again, I think it's each council and each city is independent, and everyone has to look at it in light of their city, their jurisdictional issues and planning. I'd like to really just punch that question back to you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I know. I guess I want to continue to emphasize that we need that outreach to our residents. We need good blueprints before we move forward with any developer. And so maybe this is not the route to go, but I would encourage us to think about doing something very soon. So that's it for now. Thanks.
Thank you. I echo kind of a little of what everybody says. I find it easier to edit than to create. And so part of this, I always knew that there would be additional cost, professional services cost on top of this. So that doesn't bother me. As I work in an educational institution as well, and I understand that there are fabulous products, and then there are some not so fabulous products. I wish we had learned about this a little earlier, so there wasn't the time pressure to be able to perhaps negotiate more. But I also agree with Councilperson Shirley about the visioning. I have been wanting visioning for development ever since I got elected, and it has to do with getting the residents' input on what they want out at Fort Ord, rather than it being driven by the developer or even the council. So on that note, I'd like to go out to the public and see if they have any comments to share on this. I see Mr. Ragsdale Cronin.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council, Bill Ragsdale Cronin, 58 Carlton Drive. I think looking at least listening to the debate of last meeting and this one, $40,000 doesn't seem like a whole ton of money to get the deliverables that they're talking about, even if they have to be, if the specific policies have to be rewritten. To echo Mayor Kerr, it's easier to rewrite than create. But if they do the work that sounds like they're going to do, the inventory, the GIS, and then do the outreach portion, I don't think we could buy the outreach portion for 40 grand. I don't think we could hire a consultant to get 16 people to go through our town and get the input from the folks. So from that perspective, I think it's a pretty good deal. Even if you have to spend 4 times that amount, you're still at 160,000, which is still under the 200 that Denise is saying is somewhere in the ballpark. No, we're not trying to pin her down on a number, but you've got an awful lot of room to work. And I think it also, from a certain perspective, it maybe forces the council's hand to do something. If we spend 40,000, are we just going to set it on a table and leave it set there? Or are we going to move forward and keep refining it and working on it and end up with a document that we can all use going forward for the next 10, 15 years or whatever? So I don't think there's a lot of, to me, there's not a lot of choice here. I think we should spend the money and do it, give the students a chance to do their thing and see what they deliver. It's been a mixed bag coming in. We kind of know what we're getting into, but we can also certainly farm out the rest of it to get it cleaned up around the edges. I think that'll do it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Kathy.
Hi, I'll be very brief. This is Kathy Palazzolo, and I live on Angeles Way. I think the outreach portion of this program sounds wonderful if the city officials are going to listen to their constituents. If you're not, then I would recommend not going forward with this. That's all I have to say. I mean, you're saying pretty things, But if you're not going to listen to what your constituents have to say, why bother? Thank you.
Thank you. Dennis Allion.
Thank you. Dennis Allian, 4 Los Encinos Drive, Delray Oaks. The only thing I'm confused about is, and maybe you talked about it before I got onto this call, but I thought that we were supposed to use competitive bidding. It doesn't sound like we've done that here. We've got this sole source. That aside, from what I heard Denise talk about and what they're going to provide, you know, if you're going to spend $40,000, just recognize what you're getting. It's not a professional product. Recognize that that's just some more data that you're going to have available for decision-making downstream. But I also feel like the point that was made by Pat Lintel, and I don't remember whether John mentioned it or not, but you've got a new city manager coming on. And remember, this is a city manager form of government that we have. This person that you're hiring, you're going to make a decision on, is going to have to live with this decision, and it's a pretty important one. So I hope that they're flexible enough and competent enough to be able to work with us. Again, the underlying points are no competition, and secondly, you've got a new city manager coming on board. Bottom line is, if you're going to make a decision on this tonight, you just all need to recognize that you're just buying an amateurish product. They are amateurs. Maybe they're well-intentioned and all that, but they are amateurs. So you just recognize what you're paying your money for, and that's $40,000 of the city funds that you've decided that this is worth a risk. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Scott Morgan. I can't hear you. You're muted. There you go.
Hello, Scott Morgan on Angeles Way. What is a GIS?
So Scott, this is comments. There's not really a back and forth.
Okay, never mind. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments?
Yeah, me. Hello.
Keep going.
I
Frank-
hear.
Frank
Okay, Frank,
Lucido.
hang on just a minute. I see Christy first. Frank, I see you, but Christy's hand was raised. Christy, go ahead. I can't hear you.
I got it. Hi. I am a very new resident to Delray Oaks, but I have been living on the peninsula for most of my life and have been frequenting Frog Pond for all of the while I've been here. And I'm not really exactly sure if I missed something. I was unfortunately, I lost contact, so I just got back into the meeting. But I do want to say a couple of things that I think that need to be considered before.
Christy,
Yep.
Christy, are you talking about the Ford Tag Trail?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the next item.
Oh, I'm so sorry because I
okay.
lost contact. Okay.
That's okay.
Great.
We'll be back in touch.
Awesome.
Frank Lucido.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah. First of all, I have a lot of faith in the college level GIS system as far as the geographic information system. It's basically a map and a database that entities can use to keep track of all sorts of things. That's what a GIS is. However, I do want to echo the thoughts of Dennis Allion and Kathy as far as Dennis had a lot of good points as far as you're going to get what you're going to pay for. So just be aware of that. And I was actually on the Planning Commission 20 some odd years ago when they first started talking about doing something out there at Fort Ord. And a residents task force, an outreach program task force with certain selected residents would be a great idea from the beginning, so as we don't have those same problems we had 20 years ago. And here we are now 20 years later, getting ready to fire that conversation back up again. So community outreach is critical so that you can plan properly moving forward. And so I think that's my 2 cents as far as what Dennis had to say and Kathy P. And as far as the GIS goes, that's my understanding. It's a geographic information system. That's it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anyone else have any public comments on the general plan? Karen, are you seeing any? I am not.
I am not.
Okay, so we're going to bring it back to the council.
I see Jim Clark.
Okay, Jim Clark.
Hi, Jim Clark, Via Verde, Delray Oaks. Thank you, Karen. I was doing the Alt Y that's supposed to raise the hand, but it didn't for some reason. First of all, I want to thank the ultra professionalism of Denise Duffy and Alex as our legal beagle for their professionalism and taking the requests, the questions, and going back to the professor at Cal Poly, and also then going out to get what I heard was extremely invaluable information and learning from what could have been other people's successes or could have been other people's, well, we didn't quite get there. And again, if you're not going to listen to the professionals that you're hiring to give you the professional opinion of how this thing is going to go, like Denise Duffy, if you're going to just ignore her research or belittle it, then who are you going to listen to? You know, this can't be another situation where we toss aside the planning commission with regard to the sign ordinance and give it to somebody else to do. And, you know, I think as citizens, we need to keep in mind that the two people that are pushing this the hardest are the same two people that are pushing FORTAG the hardest. And we're seeing what the citizens have to say about that with all their signs. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else? Karen? I'm not seeing any.
I'm not seeing any.
Okay, so let's come back to the council. Any last minute ideas, concerns, Vice Mayor Lintel?
No, I just would like to reiterate what some of the other council, like Scott and John Gagliotti, have pointed out, as well as some of the residents and their comments. And I think this is an important matter for our city. And I think it's so important that we need professionals working on it, not students. And those are my comments.
Okay, Councilman Gagliotti.
What I would like to do tonight would be to deny basically Cal Poly and then ask them if they would be open to piecemealing some of the scope, because it sounds as though Councilmember Shirley would like to see the visioning and I would like to see the inventory. And if there's any flexibility that they could, and I think both could be done. The discount is not the right term, but I think the visioning seems like something that's their jam. They're really good at it. And the like the GIS component is, again, it's pretty mechanical. The policy stuff I think needs to be done by a professional. I think one of the best ways to negotiate, I mean, if you want to get a dog to chase you, you run. Maybe we just tell them no and then see if they come back. And if they've got any flexibility, they may be reopened to negotiation. But that's what I will, after this discussion, I will probably make a motion to that effect and see. That's it.
Thank you. Councilman Donaldson.
Yeah, thank you. I don't want to restate what I've already said. And really with that, I think Councilmember Gagliotti maybe has a motion in mind that encapsulates that. So I'll just wait to hear any motion. Thank you.
Councilperson Shirley.
Well, given what we've talked about tonight, and also understanding probably the inflexibility that Cal Poly has because they are working within their curriculum, and I can't see trying to make them chase us down for it. It sounds like they've got some backups. I move that we put out an RFQ for someone to do our land use inventory, and for them to do a visioning and the same similar scope that we would get from Cal Poly. I'd like to see that done, and maybe we can get an RFQ out there and get that out by, I don't know, by the end of the calendar year, so that we can start moving forward on talking to our residents, having envisioning and having a better understanding of our land use inventory. So I think I'd like to move on that.
So can you reiterate your motion, please?
Let's see. I move that we deny the proposal for going to Cal Poly for a general plan update, and instead put out an RFQ for the similar type of work. So land use inventory, visioning, surveys, focus groups, you know, I don't know if that equates to a general plan update. If are we, you know, maybe I need to be helped with this in terms of, you know, is that just the initial work is really what we're looking for, and then, you know, doing a general plan update would be someone would take that information and then do the general plan update with that, or if that RFQ would be written to essentially do the general plan update. You know, in our strategic plan, I know we were trying to look for funds to do a general plan update, and I don't think staff has information on that yet. So I guess that's where I'm at, and if we can have that done by the end of the calendar year. So if anyone wants to add to that motion, John.
Yeah, if I look, I mean, I like the idea, Councilmember Shirley, but the following kind of amendments. One, I mean, I would like our city manager to be seated, and then I'd like for him to kind of go through a scoping. I like the idea of having some urgency on look, and we know that the city manager is a grant writer. I would like to basically I'd like to do this, but I'd like to have the city manager involved in helping us kind of what the timing would be for him to basically be most successful at that, and kind of where some of those funding sources might be. So
I agree.
If we could basically take your motion to, let's say, yes, let's do this. Let's start basically that effort. Let's actually put some meat on the bones and kind of push forward that one strategic item. Yeah. But caveat it with letting the new city manager come in and kind of schedule that for us, you know, or scope and schedule that for us. Then I would second your motion.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Oh, sorry, here.
Okay.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure that everyone's very clear. So what I heard the motion is, and please correct me, Karen, Kim, to deny Cal Poly, and that we will, I don't know, prioritize an RFQ by the end of the year. That I heard land use inventory and I heard visioning, but I also think we can add some the buffer there for whatever the new city manager would like. Did I encapsulate that?
So I didn't put time. Oh, go ahead, Kim.
No, I just in that visioning statement, I want to make sure that that's outreach. So surveys, focus groups, that we're talking to residents, that visioning isn't only, you know, coming up with sort of ideas, but that, you know, it's talking with residents as well. Yeah, by the end, you know, let's say by the end of the calendar year, and with the idea that our new city manager would be directing that process, and really investigating, you know, money sources. If, you know, I know he has experience with grant writing, so yeah.
So I didn't have a timeline. I want the city manager to come in and kind of give us the schedule on what it is. I think it's totally reasonable to do it. I just don't want to put that milestone or that pin in the map right tonight. And I think in that scoping discussion, as well as the funding discussion with the new city manager, we can as a council be driving, look, this is on our strategic plan. We've been basically hemming and hawing about this for the last 3 years. And we think at the end of the year is a good thing, but I want him the opportunity to say, yes, I can be done, or no. I don't want to basically give him, an impossible task if it is an impossible task. I don't know. So I would like the city manager to tell us whether or not that can be done. I don't want to just say that's the date and you're out of here if you don't make it.
So Kim, are you okay with that friendly amendment?
I am okay with that.
Okay, so in essence, what I heard was basically we're denying Cal Poly this evening. And we want to prioritize an RFQ for the visioning in particular and the land use based on the new city manager's timeline. I'm trying to synthesize it. There's a lot of words you guys are saying.
I know.
Yeah,
that's hard.
Well, so there's two chunks. There's one, the denial of Cal Poly. I think that's.
Can we take that first?
Yeah. Why don't we break this up? That's a great idea. Let's break it up.
Okay.
Let's break because that's an easy.
But Kim, you need to restate your motion, please.
Okay, it breaks my heart, but I move that we deny that Cal Poly will do our next general plan update.
And I'll second that.
Okay, Karen, let's do a vote, please.
Councilmember Shirley,
Aye.
Councilmember Donaldson,
Aye.
Councilmember Gagliotti,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lintel,
Aye.
Mayor Kerr.
Aye. So it passes unanimously.
So now
Okay.
Kim.
So do you want to explore the second motion?
Oh my. Okay. The second motion is that we will put out an RFQ for a complete land use inventory, visioning, which would include surveys to residents, focus groups to residents, as well as all the, well, I'm gonna stop there. And then, and that will be directed in timing with the support of the city manager.
So in the amendment, the three things I would like the city, friendly amendment, the three things I'd like the city manager to do is schedule, scope, and funding. It was like, I'd like the city manager to own those three components and come back and tell us, this is when I can do it. This is what we need to do, and this is how much it's going to cost, or this is where I would get the money from.
Kim, do you accept that?
Yes, thank you, Councilman Gagliotti. That sounds great.
Okay. So, Karen, can we do a vote, please?
Did we have a second?
That was,
Yes.
I was seconded.
Yes, John.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Shirley,
Aye.
Councilmember Donaldson,
Aye.
Councilmember Gagliotti,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lintel,
Aye.
Mayor Kerr.
Aye. So it passes unanimously, and I want to thank everyone, including Denise and Alex and Jeff for doing all the work, and Ms. Shirley for really kicking this off to begin this really important conversation. So let's move on to new business. So for those of you that may have joined us late, I have not heard any issues about access to the meeting for quite a while. So I'm guessing everyone that wanted to is on. So I'm suggesting that we not take a 5-minute, technical break. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the route and design alternatives to the Delray Oaks portion of FORTAG. This is brought forward by Vice Mayor Lintel and Councilmember Donaldson. Vice Mayor Lintel, would you like to kick us off?
I would like Councilmember Donaldson to take the lead on this, please.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Councilmember Lintel. First, I would like to give the floor to Alex to talk about any legal issues that might be involved with this process as it relates to council members.
Thank you, Councilmember Donaldson. I was contacted by several of the council members with respect to conflicts of interest based on real property, and just wanted to go through a little bit of that. Questions regarding conflicts of interest are to be made by the individual council members based on, consultation with me and their own research and their determination of the facts. Once someone has a conflict of interest with respect to a matter, that conflict of interest remains unless the facts change, perhaps someone moves, or there's an intervening letter from the FPPC. As you know, there is a letter drafted and on its way up to the FPPC with respect to real property interests of the council members. And another note is that disqualified members don't count towards a quorum. So if we have conflicts of interest and folks are disqualified, they don't count towards the quorum. If you do determine that you have a conflict of interest in the Zoom world that we live in currently, that means in order to recuse yourself, turning off your screen as well as muting your microphone. And I just wanted to let the public know that various council members have contacted me, and we did walk through the 4-step conflict of interest process that's provided for in the FPPC rules, the Fair Political Practices Commission rules. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or provide any more detail with respect to the conflict of interest question.
My question is, do any of the city council members feel like they need to recuse themselves?
I want to say, I definitely feel I would need to recuse myself if we were taking any actions, but tonight is just information. And I think that as a resident of the city, and since this is such a big deal, I don't think that there's, me participating and listening is not a conflict.
That's your decision to make. Okay.
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah.
Ms.
Really?
Yeah, I will say I called the FPPC. They were not able to give me any formal advice. So I will wait until we get the formal advice from FPPC's response to Mr. Lurka's letter. But I will say it seems as though there's precedent that since there's no material gain for me in living close to the potential project, and the fact that we would just be listening here tonight, not making any decisions, I'm willing to sit in and listen to the residents.
Okay. Scott, did you have anything further?
No, I would just like to start the discussion if I could.
I would like to make a comment first that I am not recusing myself until I hear from the FPPC. And as the others have stated, this is just a discussion period. No decisions are being made, and I would like to participate in the discussions. Thank you.
Okay.
Scott.
Okay. So I too am not recusing myself. I do not live within 500 feet of the current proposed path. I would be within 500 feet if it went up Plumas or some other direction, but I will be participating in the conversation. So Councilman Donaldson, you don't have anything further? You just want, shall I?
No, I do. I actually want to start the discussion. First off, thank all of the residents that are here today at this meeting. I know there are a lot of you out there, and I really appreciate you being a part of this. There's no question that this project has divided our city. And it's hard for me to watch, particularly because there's so much common ground. The majority of our citizens, and those are those who support it and those who are against it, essentially feel the same way. We support the overall intent of FORTAG and the objectives of the project. We love the frog pond and want to protect it. We want to safely ride a bike in and around the city and safely cross 218. And we want to fix the design on Carlton. With that much in common, we should be able to find a compromise and get rid of the divisiveness and the anxiety that this project brings. I believe we can maintain the overall vision and viability of FORTAG if we compromise on just two things. One, the route, and two, the tunnel with the associated ramp. Routing the trail down 218 makes sense. It addresses the majority of the concerns brought to my attention by our citizens, and I think it would have overwhelming support. There are many positive aspects to this particular route. The trail already exists, and we can fix what we have without trying to add something new. The terrain is relatively flat, and it avoids neighborhoods. We can make it safer, more useful, and potentially slow traffic, and it doesn't require a tunnel. For TAG and TAMSI, I'm asking you to take a look at the Delray Oaks segment from a different perspective to address the reasons why the EIR rejected the 218 option. And there were essentially four reasons. First is that it doesn't meet the purpose of FORTAG. It's very clear to me that Delray Oaks is the connective tissue between the coast and Fort Ord for this entire project. Our segment is so critical, it should be accepted that portions of our trail simply won't meet the full intent and purpose of FORTAG. The second reason was it wasn't wide enough for a Class 1 trail, and that's one that combines both bikes and pedestrians. Any trail that goes through a city will be naturally constrained. The trail widths and characteristics in Delray Oaks should reflect that, and exceptions be made. Plus, narrow trails already exist on the peninsula. You can see them on the Coastal Rec Trail and the trail that goes down Fremont Boulevard. The third reason was the safety risks and proximity to traffic. We can mitigate that by combining the two existing bike lanes to one side of the street, installing railing and sound barriers to separate from traffic, and also by creating a prominent signalized crossing site at the Frog Pond with good lighting, signage, and flashing lights to slow traffic and allow safe crossing. And then the fourth reason was the potential loss of funding, and Caltrans not likely to accept the option. And that's why I think it's very important that we start discussions on this alternative as soon as possible. The route along 218 also eliminates the need for the tunnel and the ramp into the Frog Pond. FORTAG has indicated that a future trail will not go, a connecting trail won't go through the Frog Pond. So there's no need for construction to occur inside. Therefore, it makes sense to install a bike rack outside the entrance, create a ramp near the existing stairs to address accessibility issues, and that's what would be needed. I have the utmost respect for all of the organizations that are involved, and I really hope a compromise can be made, realizing that there's a lot at stake. FORTAG, I applaud your vision and objectives for this project that still can be met. And TAMSI, you have an excellent reputation within the state for executing projects and working with Caltrans. So ultimately, I hope we can reach a compromise and turn something that has divided us into something that can unite us. And with that, Mayor, if you would like me to send it out to the public or bring it back to the council, I can do either.
No, I'll finish the communication for the council and then we'll go out to the public.
Okay.
So Vice Mayor Lintel.
Yes, I'm in support of everything that Member Donaldson has just spoken. I wanted to bring up one other point that actually on Fremont Street, the barriers would be very much appropriate on 218. It would prevent the automobiles from penetrating the bike zone and so on. And that seems to have been approved for Fremont Street. I'd also like to mention one other fact, that if we don't have the tunnel, that's a tremendous savings and would expedite the work tremendously. So I am in support of what Scott has said, and some of the Fortec people have said, well, that would slow traffic down on 218. That would be a good thing, actually, because I have a hard time getting out of my street, Rosita, making a left-hand turn onto 218 because the traffic is coming so fast in both directions. And I know other people from other exits onto 218 have suffered the same problem that I have. And I would like to see the traffic slowed down. So that would be a dual gain, a dual plus by having it on the trail go along 218. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Gagliotti?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just, I agree with a lot of what Scott mentioned, although I am a fan, I'm not a fan of signalized intersections. And I think one of the issues that we have with different modes of transportation, and I'm learning this being on the MST board, is you have different velocities of different movement, people movements. And signalized intersection is where those things kind of they become pinch points. And I like the tunnel, but to Councilmember Lentell's point, if we could save $11 million in the overall project, that gives you a lot of capital to deploy on on an alternative route down 218. And I suspect one of the pain points for Caltrans is that it would require, in order to reduce the size of the 218, in order to make way for a Class A trail and K-railing it or having some kind of division, is you would have to reduce the speed limit. And I grew up when that road was a 35-mile-an-hour road, and there was an elevated trail all the way to Tanaka's, which is now the Tanaka's Gardens or Tanaka's Nursery. And my mom used to run on it almost every day. And that all went away and changed when 218 was identified as a critical artery, and they widened it and increased the speed limit. I would love to see us go the other way. And so this is an opportunity really for this jurisdiction to kind of force that hand and make that happen. If TAMC and FORTAG see this as a critical component to the overall FORTAG trail, then the residents are saying, well, what do we get out of it? Well, this could be what the residents would get out of it, is that we basically get the slowing of traffic along 218 and an alternative that addresses the concerns that the community is raising. So I support. Well, I can't actually support it, but I agree with Councilman Donaldson's review and his recommendations.
Okay, Councilwoman Shirley.
I have nothing to say at this point. I'm just going to listen. Thank you.
Okay. I too, because this is a discussion item, there are so many factors in changing this. Acting City Manager Hoyne and I have been discussing having a meeting with TAMC, with representatives from TAMC, with the Frog Pond, and perhaps we can get Caltrans to come as well. And so what I will be doing this evening is listening to all of the comments, in addition to Scott's kind of take on it. And I am going to use these as the basis for this meeting that we will be scheduling hopefully in early September, to again give our city manager a little time to get up and going. So I too will be listening, and what I'd like to do is go out to the public. And I know there's a lot of you. It is 7:30. We have 1, 2, 3 additional items. We will do public comment for 3 minutes for an hour. And then if we go over an hour, we'll go down to 2. So on that note, let's begin. Dennis Allion. Dennis, I can't hear you. One more time, Dennis. Can we start his time over, please?
Okay, now I'm unmuted.
There you go.
I tried several times. Thank you, Mayor. And thanks for restarting the clock. I raised my hand and say, yay, Scott, very well said. Those are some of the ideas that I've been saying too. And now, and one of the things I think is really important is we remember that when I first moved to Delray Oaks in 1993, Canyon Del Rey speed limit was 35 miles an hour.
There you
And
go.
it was a decision made by the state or TAMC, I'm not sure who, it's a state highway, and somebody decided that it was 45 was okay. I never liked that decision. You know, it's interesting to me that the same road goes through Seaside at 35 miles an hour. Granted, most people don't pay attention to that, but nevertheless, it's a 35 mile an hour speed limit. The other point I wanted to make was, and of course, you know, you could say, okay, it's 35 miles an hour to to General Jim Moore Road, and then it's 45 miles the rest of the way, if that's appropriate. But somebody rational thinking needs to be applied here. I think Scott's words were right on. I've been an advocate now of that widening Canyon Del Rey to accommodate a bike path. It can be done. It might be a bit expensive, but you can do it. And I'm sure some engineers can figure that out. The second thing is that I wanted to comment on the frog pond real quickly. The frog pond has not been a permanent existence here in Delray Oaks. It didn't exist in the past. It did exist when I moved here. So in my opinion, the frog pond is this valuable asset sitting over there, and it's been there forever as far as I'm concerned. But for other people, it's a relatively new thing, and some safe and sane modifications to a path along the edge of the frog pond. You know, in the next batch of people that move into Delray Oaks are going to accept whatever is there and say that's the way it's always been, I guess. So let's be a little bit flexible on this, have an open mind about it, look for this opportunity, as Scott has proposed, to kind of come up with a solution that heals all wounds. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Beth Fergon. You're muted, honey.
I swore I wasn't going to do that, but I did. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. I am a 36-year resident of Delray Oaks. I've lived in my home at 22 Carlson Drive for that long, and my home backs up to the frog pond. I love this city with my entire being. I think it's a beautiful, safe, perfectly centrally located city, and I am all for a rec trail. I think it's fabulous. I would use it, but not in its current configuration. I don't believe it should go down residential streets, and I know that NIMBY thing everybody talks about, but I don't want it, and yet I don't think it should happen within our little tiny town. I'm also concerned about the tunnel, and the frog pond is my number one concern. I can't stand the thought of ruining it. And once it's gone, it's gone. And I think that monstrosity of a ramp is wrong. I love Scott's ideas about going down 218, and Dennis, thank you for supporting that as well. That's what I see. One thing I would like is, I think, just a 4-foot wide sidewalk down Carlton that's safe for people, because we have a lot of people that do walk down Carlton. And in the spot where they were going to put a 12-foot or planning to put the 12-foot path, just a 4-foot wide sidewalk down to Canyon Del Rey and meeting the crosswalk. And I do believe that flashing something or other like they have at the sports center to stop the traffic when people want to cross is a wonderful idea. I'd even support a stoplight, but I'm sure that won't be popular with a lot of people. But I also think a crosswalk going towards the Frog Pond and a sidewalk going to the entrance of the Frog Pond would be very beneficial for the residents. So those are my thoughts, and I thank you so much for your time, and carry on.
Thank you, Beth. Bill Ragsdale Cronin.
Good evening again, Madam Mayor, City Council folks. Bill Ragsdale Cronin, Carlton Drive. I find it interesting that Scott wants to put the bike lane down 218. I am the spouse of a commute biker, and I'm also the spouse of the City of Delray Oaks TAMC rep at the time some of these things were discussed. And there's not room in certain areas on 218 to put in a class 1 bike lane. For example, along the edge where it overlooks the old driving range, there is no shoulder there. It would require huge retaining walls and such to be built, or taking property on the other side and moving the entire road over. Anyway, other than that, you know, I'm not set on the particular alignment of this project, but I would happen to know and let the city know that the city of Seaside has fully embraced FORTAG. Look at what they have done over on Broadway / Obama. They're making it a bike friendly, foot friendly area so that people can ride their bicycles down Jim Moore on a very nice bike lane, go downtown, get something to eat, listen to some music, cruise along. And eventually, if the city sees the need for it, I'm pretty sure they'll connect it right on over to the regional bike trail and just leave Delray Oaks setting in the dark. We talk about wanting to have a vibrant downtown. It's not going to be very vibrant if you can't get to it. So whether it's built up on the Fort Ord property, it's built out over by the Moose area or in the commercial district, or some other areas. If we don't have access to it, it's not a big deal. Where I live, I can get on my bicycle, which I haven't done in years, but I'm planning to do when I retire. I can get on my bicycle, I can ride up the hill, ride right into Seaside on very nice bike lanes because the city supports those things, and have a very good time. And then I could make my way down and completely bypass Delray Oaks altogether. I've been here for about 12 years. My wife grew up here. And I just hate to see the city get caught up in, as one person put it, the NIMBY thing, and just not look at the whole picture. It's not just a bike lane. It helps us become a destination. It helps us become part of a larger community, because we tend to just kind of set out here in the corner by ourselves. We don't have anything going through. You know, we get the traffic from the races, and we get traffic from 68 or from 1 passing through. We're not a destination location, and without adequate bicycle and pedestrian access, we'll never become one. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. I see Patrice Vecchioni.
Hi, I'm Patrice Vecchioni on Saucedo Avenue. The problem with the signalized crossing is the degree to which it would slow down traffic. It would make 218 virtually, you'd be crawling. Every time somebody wanted to cross the street, all the traffic stops. It's a great idea, but it's unfortunately not viable. My 92-year-old mother-in-law's backyard in Palo Alto abuts a walking and biking trail and has been there for decades. Neither she nor her neighbors have had an infusion of homeless people, nor has there been an increase in crime due to its presence. She is perfectly safe. My home is on Saucedo, and the trail is to go in the 20+ foot space right behind my back fence. In the 25 years I've lived here, no one that I'm aware of on our block has had any problems as a result of that space. No homeless people have camped there, and there have been no intruders. In fact, the path would open up that area and make it much more visible. As both a walker and a bike rider, I want you to know that walkers and riders don't stand still. We're not going to camp on your front lawns. The idea is to keep moving. That's what we do, and enjoy the sunshine. I think the trail and the tunnel will make it safe for us to travel by foot. I won't cross Canyon del Rey by my bike or by foot anymore because it's simply not safe. A small group of vocal residents who oppose this path are attempting to control the narrative, and they are doing so by inciting fear, greatly based on a lack of honesty. Here are the facts. Property values in cities that have such paths go up, not down. Statistics show that there is no increase whatsoever in crime as a result of trails. People claim the lighted tunnel will welcome intruders. Once again, nothing backs this up other than misplaced fear. As a city, do we want to be run by lies or facts? I ask the council to support the truth and not fear. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Tom Morgan.
Hi. So I want to start my comment. My objection is to the trail as it currently exists. I think it's a dangerous, costly, and as everyone's learning, unwanted addition to our city. I would, however, I'm heartened to hear what Councilmember Donaldson has said, and I would support that. Now, having said that, the comment I want to make about this process is, and we're starting to see a change here, but you'd think that Delray Oaks, given the size of the city, would be a vibrant representative democracy. Each council member here has less constituents than most districts of most cities have. Yet we find ourselves in this boondoggle where I'm ashamed of each and every one of you for having approved part of this trail before we had this debate. That we're only having this debate now is a profound failure on each one of you. You had the opportunity to talk to your neighbors. I'm afraid some of you did and didn't listen. But in a light most kind to each of you, you failed to take advantage of the small city that you represent and to actually listen to people. And now we're here where the city is in the middle of this project, and only now are we having an actual, vibrant, democratic debate about it. That tells me there is an unhealthy culture in the city council, and it tells me that you were not doing your jobs. So I am heartened to hear that Councilmember Donaldson and some others have decided to start doing their jobs, have decided to start listening. And I would encourage those of you who are not doing that to start doing that. This was a failure, and I just hope we can come back from it. Thank you.
My apologies. Don Gruber.
Hi, I'm Don Gruber, Delray Oaks, and I'm here once again about the Frog Pond in particular and the proposed trail through it. True, the Frog Pond's controlled by the Park District, and they erred in approving this. However, you control the access to it, and you can effectively prevent it. I oppose it there because it does terrific damage to the habitat, even in this first phase. And you can see it for yourself in the drawings and in the video presented by Tamsi. Paved trails, 10-foot wide paved trails with handrails and retaining walls, completely opposite what the Frog Pond is supposed to be. This does not happen in a wetland preserve. Secondly, it sets the stage for even greater destruction of the Frog Pond in phase 2 by bringing bikes into the preserve through the tunnel and the path, and that will be anathema to the definition of wetland preserve. You are more than aware of the opposition to this destructive trail in our city. The many signs and the many yards should give you a pretty good idea of that. The recent meetings on Rosita and in the Frog Pond were vibrant enough to count as an insurrection in Delray Oaks definitions. In a quiet town like Delray Oaks, that's an insurrection. You're also aware of the petition circulating to take the power to decide this matter out of your hands. And I think it has a very good chance of success. And certainly I'll be signing that petition. Those of you on the council who build yourselves as more or less environmentally minded probably are thinking that it is indeed an environmental upgrade, gets people out of the cars, onto bikes, etc. And that is possibly true everywhere else, but it's not true here in Delray Oaks, where you and I live. Here it's a destructive, not well planned. It's destructive, not well planned, and it needs to change. We can do this by way of the petition in the subsequent measure, because many of the opponents of the trail have expressed the willingness to accept some form of compromise. It might be a better idea if the council would indicate that it too is up to a compromise, and I think that's been indicated so far. I'd like to see that continue. But mostly my charge is about the frog pond. We can't bring the frog pond, and we can't put them through the frog pond. It's totally wrong for the meaning of frog pond. It's a wetland preserve. We should preserve it, keep the bikes out, trail goes around it, can go down 218, turn left on Jim Moore, and everybody happy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don. Frederica.
Good evening. When we moved to Delray Oaks, we knew that we were moving into a retirement community where the median age was 55 years young. During the past 14 years, we've watched the statistics change as we have watched younger families move into Delray Oaks, specifically identifying Delray Oaks as a warm and friendly community where they can raise and start a family. I find it a privilege to be able for us to access the Frog Pond, which is owned by the Regional Park District. This Frog Pond is open to the public to be used by the public. It's awesome for me to see a proposed switchback ramp following through with ADA accessibility and compliance for our older and disabled residents and others that may be visiting the park. Imagine families being able to leave the Frog Pond safely by going under a small tunnel under 218 that is equipped with lights, mirrors on both ends, and a surveillance camera, as well as being gated and locked from sunset to sunrise, and having the walls of this short tunnel being decorated with such art as a mural by a local artist. My family, as well as other families in our community, look forward to having those bike paths running through our public streets, such as Angeles Way, which gives us access to the public park, and a bike path even leading on Carlton Drive, accessing the neighboring communities. A bike path that we can all enjoy, walking, riding safely, including children. We've had many friends and families visiting from outside of the area, and they were surprised that our community had no bike trails, and noticed the bike path on Highway 218 that is being mentioned was overrun by passing speeding cars, nearly striking a bicyclist on a prior occasion. During the past 4 years, I've become part of the Citizen Action Committee, Sustainable Delray Oaks, and recently appointed to the Police Advisory Committee. These committees have allowed me to become familiar with our local government, including the police department. Having law enforcement background myself, I'm very confident in the work of our police department. They're very engaging and ensuring that we are kept safe. I'm aware that they patrol all aspects and that they are aware of what's going on in our city. I look forward to working with our mayor and city council in a positive manner in the growth and development of our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jeff Cecilio.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and Acting City Manager. First of all, I'd like to thank Scott Donaldson on his leadership pertaining to this matter and really putting it out that we as residents are very important. So here are my comments. Tonight, we are with serious opposition that the council is facing with the current plan with FORTAG and the rec trail. I've lived here for 31 years, And as the mayor opened up the meeting tonight with, we are a small town and how close we are as a community, this community is crying out that this project is going to hurt our neighborhoods and our city with this rec trail. Please, Mayor and Council, it is for you to get out there and hear the residents' concerns and fears, how this small town will change drastically to appease TAMC and its plan to change our community. It's up to you, the council and mayor, that this is not the right direction to proceed with this. I heard there will be 1,000 to 3,000 people using this trail. This makes no sense to bring a commercialized rec trail to our small town community with the change or with the chance of homelessness and vandals and all the people that will be in our neighborhoods. Please look at alternatives to change this runaway train. It's not too late to save our town and its residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Roberta.
Hello, my name is Roberta and I'm in the city of Delray Oaks. And I had 2 points to make. Thank you, first of all, to the council members who brought this to the agenda. I really appreciate your listening to us and the people and moving forward with this. One, I thought we weren't calling any names tonight, but in the last couple of weeks, I've been called a liar, a hypocrite, a NIMBY, and exclusionary. I haven't called anybody any names about anything. I've just stated my points of opposition to this project. This is a path of privilege to me. It gives access to people in a city where people do not have issues with accessing the outdoors. It doesn't connect anything but green spaces that are not really useful green spaces. For example, what's behind the garden center. And what's really interesting is every time we ask what benefit this brings to us, I get told that I'll be able to ride to the grocery store to buy my groceries on my bike. And this is going to help with climate change. And I also haven't seen any data to back that information up. To address somebody's, poo-pooing our concerns for safety, I've mentioned this at one of the other meetings. I tried to take my children to use the bathroom at Safeway once. And when we opened the door, a man came out with a billow of smoke and he had been smoking crack in there. I was accosted in my own driveway just a couple of months ago by somebody who had come from the Laguna Grande area and had accosted me and my child in our driveway on a Friday afternoon. So to say that my concerns for safety aren't real is insulting, and it's certainly not true. I'm also really concerned about the fact that, we're told that the Frog Pond is open for the public and it's for everybody. Part of the reason why the Regional Parks District was created was to preserve and protect open spaces. I just came back from a place where public open spaces are being loved to death to the point where they're being closed for repair and rehabilitation. Communities are in an uproar because their neighborhoods are being overrun with people trespassing, parking for hours, days at a time, relieving themselves in their backyards and driveways. And if this thing isn't planned properly, how long will it take before we reach that tipping point? Because we didn't plan properly in the first place. So for all of the reasons that I've stated at this time and times before, I oppose this project. And as a matter of fact, I'm really disappointed that it's come to this length of time before you've allowed us to speak more freely about this. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Irene. Irene, I am unable to hear you.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
I just have a comment to make. Why are the citizen three of the city trying to blame the two councilwomen for all the mistakes, everything what goes on? All of a sudden, they put everything to those two people. Yet, FORTAC, it was actually 4 years ago when it was all started, and it was started under or worked on under Edelin, Mayor Edelin, Kristen Clark, Pat, and the others at that time. So, just don't go around blaming somebody because they're new. And I have a real problem with that. And then when council members are there for meetings, then nobody shows up. And, you know, complaining about it. It just doesn't seem right to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. Gary Krieger.
Okay, there we go. Got that started. Hang on 1 second. There we go. Well, all right. There we go. Working. Thanks. Actually, Irene stole a little bit of my thunder. I just wanted to, I just felt compelled after listening to some of the comments, just to remind everybody that this did start under Mayor Edlin and Dino Pick and the previous council they had at the time, had lots of support. Many of us that support the trail have been going to the publicly noticed meetings for years now. So to say there was no, the implication is done in secret or something, it's just off the mark. And some of people have acknowledged they weren't paying attention. I've done that before, but don't blame the mayor and don't blame other council people because you weren't paying attention. You know, you got to be active, and we are now. So now we're going to move forward and have that debate. My thing is, I just want to see us base decisions on data, not emotions. Worries about crime, trash, homelessness, those sort of things. And as I started researching this, those are very common. That's universally what gets thrown up every time a new community starts to talk about, you know, putting in a new trail. As was pointed out before, though, if you look at the data, it doesn't happen. Home values go up near trails. Crime does not go up, oftentimes goes down. The police often support trails coming through. So if you look at the actual numbers of what actually happens, and there are some problems. If you go up to San Francisco, some of the big metropolitan areas, they have issues. We're not San Francisco. We're not San Jose. I spend probably more time on the bike trails than I would imagine most of the people in this meeting. I'm on there, 3 or 4 times a week, all the way from Silmar, all the way through Fort Ord, all the way up to Marina, and I don't see this stuff. I mean, it's not there. It doesn't happen. So, you know, look at the data as we're making decisions moving forward. Let's look at the data. All right. And lastly, yeah, no, I think that pretty much does it. You know, as we're doing this, it's a great idea because we all want to get out there. There's I see all sorts of people use the trails, the ones we have now in Marina, through Monterey, through PG, through Fort Ord, all sorts of people out there utilizing it. It's not any one group. And I'd love to see Delray Oaks be part of the future, not be what blocks this great idea from coming together. Thank you.
Thank you. Beth. Beth, are you there? Hang on. Beth, you're unmuted. Beth, can you hear me? You do not appear muted to me, but we cannot hear you. So Beth, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to the next person and hopefully you can figure out your technology and we'll move forward. Okay, so I see Veronique.
Hi, so I just wanted to say that I am opposed to the current route of Fort Tag, but I would be a big proponent of the ideas that were put forth by the council members tonight of going down to 18 and slowing down traffic. I think it's a wonderful idea. The fact that the path was, somebody mentioned that Delray Oaks is not connected, we need a bike path. Yes, we do, but I'm not sure what we're connecting exactly. If you think about it, we don't have really a lot of stores. The stores that we have are not even connected with the current routing, so I didn't really understand that point. But what I wanted to say was really the big problem that I see in Delray Oaks is the speed of traffic on 218 and Carlton as well. And if we can be allowed to be riding our bikes more safely on 218, slow down traffic, I think it would make such a big difference. It is also my commute. That's how I get to work. I go on 218 and then Jim Moore. And I would be a great advocate of FORTAG if the project was rerouted that way. Oh, and by the way, I wanted to say there are some other people who are trying to raise their hands and they're not able to. So I believe Frank is trying to speak as well. So just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Thank you. I do see Frank. Frank, I see you. I just want to get to Kathy first. Hang on just a minute. So Kathy.
Hi, I hope I'm unmuted. This is Kathy Palazzolo. I live on Angeles, and I am vehemently opposed to the current FORTAG trail as proposed. I want to say how much I appreciate Councilman Donaldson for speaking up tonight. The frustration many of us have been dealing with by not being heard was so disappointing. And to finally feel like we've been heard a little bit is lifting my spirits. You know, I've been listening to a lot of people talk about, you know, there won't be crime, there won't be homelessness, there won't be this, there won't be that. People need to realize that a lot of this data that they're talking about is old data prior to the change in a lot of laws, which made it somewhat easy to deal with these problems. But law enforcement's hands are tied now, and it's not easy for them to deal with these issues. So to compare this data to old data, it's almost like apples and oranges. FORTAG and TAMC were talking about, you know, homelessness, the unhoused.
Stop video and mute. Because
Sorry, go ahead, Kathy. Kathy?
I'm here.
There you go.
Okay. People, this problem is in the open now. It's not being pushed aside. If you don't believe that, look on Fremont Street, look at Laguna Grande, look at Highway 1, drive on Del Monte, look in some of the little openings right off the sidewalks. You will see this problem of the unhoused homeless transients. I want to give kudos to Roberta. Thank you for talking about what's happening in other areas such as Hawaii. I am a little concerned. I appreciate Councilman Donaldson's initiative, but what guarantee do we have that that is going to solve our problem? You know, I'm really hoping everybody that's listening to this tonight is going to keep going full speed ahead with the petition. So if what Councilman Donaldson has put forward doesn't happen, we still have some control until we know for sure that our elected officials are going to listen to us and do what they should. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Frank.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
Frank Lucido, 2 Saucedo Avenue. I'm a 20-year Delray Oaks resident, third generation. My grandfather built a house here in the 40s. My father built a house here and lived here in the 50s, and I built part of a house and live here now. But for the past 2 months, since the mayor came to visit me at my house, which I really appreciate, by the way, I've been talking to a lot of people about this project. I asked my friends on Angeles Way to talk to their friends and my friends on Carlton as well. We've been communicating with FORTAG and TAMC all along. We've been very vocal at the walkthroughs and written letters to Fish and Game and City Hall and to the media. We've been very visible on social media. After speaking with roughly 600 residents, the overwhelming majority of people do not support the current plan through the wetlands and the neighborhoods. we're talking about 70% of those people would actually support a rec trail going straight down Highway 218 from Safeway to almost Villa Verde with a crosswalk, not a tunnel. And we definitely need to fix the Carlton situation and of course, stay out of the Frog Pond. No one is against Fortag or Tamsi. We just don't like the current path of that rec trail. Highway 218 is a viable and doable option. I've been surveying there for 40 years. I've measured the fences. I've measured the right of way. There is room. There's 2 bike paths there right now that could be combined. Maybe we'll have to compromise. We might not get a class 1 bike path the whole way, maybe a hybrid class 1, class 2, but it can be done. And by the time you get to the Frog Pond and stay out of it and work your way up Carlton, maybe we put speed bumps and rumble strips in the road to slow cars down. Highway 218 right now divides our city, and we are a divided city, but we could use Highway 218 to bring our city together. We can come up with a plan we can all get behind, knowing that it won't be perfect for everyone. Won't be perfect for Fortag or Tamsi, or even perfect for the people of Delray Oaks. But we can do this down Highway 218 and use that corridor to bring our city together. We have an opportunity to make our city better, and I think that would just be a wonderful thing to see. Thank you.
Thank you. Beth, I want to come back to you and see if we can try this again. Okay, you're unmuted. Can you turn up your volume perhaps? I'm sorry, it's not working. So I'm going to move on and please keep trying. I see Scott Morgan.
Hello, thank you for taking this. I'm a 32-year resident on Angelus Way, and for every study where people tell me a bike path, your property values go up, I can find 3 that say your property values go down. So I really don't want to debate that. What I'd like to talk about is the proposed path down Angelus. As it enters the park, it takes a severe right-hand turn and takes out 9 parking spaces. And that is not acceptable. We cannot lose parking spaces in the park. And then once you go down the service road in the park, there's a dirt road there. We have barbecue pits at the east end of the park. I see these gates open during a large event when there's a barbecue down the east end of the park. And you're going to have cars on a bike path going to get to a barbecue. That just doesn't make sense to me. So that's my thought. You can't have a service road where you drive to a barbecue and have bicyclists and people walking. That's just not going to work. We cannot lose parking spots in the park, and it just doesn't make sense to me. I strongly support a route down 218. That would be a wonderful compromise. And that's all I have for now. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Amy Wigg?
Yes, actually, I'm borrowing her computer. This is Catherine Varley. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I was wondering about that gate too, because it's normally locked down on that side. It's across the street from the Frog Pond. And when people go down there to the far side, to have barbecues like Scott was saying, I was thinking they'd have to have that gate open the entire time, and that didn't look like it worked at all. I'm a 17-year resident. My husband and I started the dog park. So we've got dogs walking down there too. And I like the idea of the 218 trail and slowing down the traffic and keeping the path out of the dog park, out of the frog pond. So I assume it would go from Safeway and then around, like immediately 218 and through there. So yeah, my concern is, yeah, definitely slow the traffic down because I'm concerned about safety and I definitely am opposed to a tunnel. So I think that's a really good idea, Mr. Lucido. I really like the way you articulated. Great. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Randy, okay, I see a hand. Nancy. You're muted though. There you go.
Okay. Okay, thank you for listening to me. I agree with Dennis Allione about widening the bike trail on 218 and
okay,
scrapping the current project. I don't agree with the tunnel or bicycle access to the frog pond. That will totally destroy the frog pond. And I agree that the traffic should be slowed down on 218 and maybe a light put in at Carlton, and it would slow traffic down. And I think that would be a benefit to everyone. And I guess that's really all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Nancy. Beth, we're going to try this again. Third time's the charm. You are unmuted. Oh, this is frustrating for me. I can only imagine how it is for you. So what I'd like to offer, oh, I think Beth just vanished. Maybe she'll come back. So what we're going to do is Randy has 2 letters to read. Let's go with you, Randy.
Jerry.
You're muted though.
Jerry Vanders 1, 24 Carlton Drive. I would like to ask the city management to please reconsider the route of the proposed Fortag trail through our special city. To be clear, I am not against the trail, just very concerned about the proposed route through our neighborhoods and the Frog Pond. This is a regional project that seems to have very few benefits for Delray Oaks, its residents, and the Frog Pond. Because it is difficult for the Fortag people to work with Caltrans to route the trail along Highway 218, is not a reason for our city leaders to give away the peace and quiet of our neighborhoods to route the recreation trail through them. On the TAMC page regarding the Fortag project, one of the benefits that they cite is competitive events to be held on the trail. I know of no one who would want competitive events being held in their front yard, backyard, street, cul-de-sac, or the Frog Pond. The Fortag people also claim that property values increase in a community with bike paths. This may be true in communities that have been built with the bike paths incorporated into them. To retrofit our city with this project is unacceptable. When looking at the poorly executed traffic calming project that was done on Carlton Drive approximately 5 years ago, and the unkept promises to rectify it, the skepticism of this Fortag trail being a positive thing must be understood. People have said that those against this trail being routed through our neighborhoods are NIMBYs, which in this case is true. The Frog Pond is Delray Oaks' backyard, and we have a responsibility to protect it. Jerry Vanders.
It's a well-written letter.
Gerald Hart. 12 Serrano Way, Delray Oaks. I am writing to express my dismay at the opposition to the proposed a new bike trail running through Delray Oaks. I'm in favor of it, even though I rarely bicycle myself. And if Delray Oaks were the first community ever to build a bike trail, then pure speculation of decreased home values, decreased privacy, and increased theft, mugging, rape and even murder might be persuasive. We are fortunate then, that we can consider how new bike trails have influenced thousands of other communities in the U.S. To summarize, the vast majority of communities report 1. New bike trails, with their tunnels and bridges, are extremely popular once they are open. 2. Adding a bike trail through a community raises property values by 5 to 10%. 3. In-depth surveys based on law enforcement records and community surveys show no increase in crime, of any kind, resulting from new bike trails. This is also true for the addition of parks, playgrounds, communal spaces, and so forth. In some cases, the crime rate actually decreased. 4. Bike trails make safer neighborhoods for children. Being hit by a car while walking is the second leading cause of death for children, aged 5 to 12 in California. By providing alternative options for getting around, we can reduce the traffic on all streets through our community. You don't have to believe me. In 2001, in advance of building trails, the Marin County Board spent over $100,000 on feasibility and impact studies and produced an in-depth report on the impacts of new bike trails. Besides the findings listed above, their studies considered results from other U.S. communities, specifically evaluating 78 obsolete railroad tunnel repurposed for bicycles. They found that 1. New trail users included 58% bicyclists and 36% pedestrians, where the remaining users included equestrians and similar categories. This means that the new trails will benefit Delray Oaks residents for a variety of recreational activities. 2. Speaking of tunnels, they say, many people recognize the tremendous benefits that an open tunnel provides. Yet for some, tunnels still evoke images of dark places where vagrants linger, or illegal activities take place. The results of this study demonstrate that contrary to the negative expectations of some residents, tunnels do not impose undue safety or financial burdens on local communities and that, in fact, tunnels on trails are quite safe. Of the 78 tunnels included in this study, crimes reported in or around the tunnels are extremely rare. For these reasons, I urge the DRO City Council and all of Delray Oaks residents to support the plans for a new bike trail just as they are, including the tunnel under Canyon Del Rey. Sincerely, Gerald Harp.
Thank you, Randy. Karen, Mike O'Brien. You're muted. There you go. Mike? I can't hear you. I can see you talking and you're not muted. Check your volume on your computer. So Karen, and would it be appropriate to, if Mr. O'Brien was to get his comments into you to include in the minutes?
Yes, that would be appropriate. If he was to email them, we could include it in the packet or in the minutes.
So Mike?
Yes.
Because we can't, Mike, we cannot hear you. So what I'd like to do is offer you the opportunity to email your comments to Karen and they will be put in the minutes. Okay, I'm sorry about that. And also Kim, or the other person that I think we lost as well. Mr. Ragsdale Cronin?
I will be extremely brief.
Please.
Susan delivered a letter to City Hall to be included in the packet that didn't happen. So if that could be included in the minutes, I would appreciate it. Maybe she didn't get it. I thought she did. She said she was headed down there with it, but it may not have happened. But if it could just be, if she got it there, could it just be put in the minutes? That's all I'm asking.
We'll
Thanks.
we'll make sure that happens. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm not seeing any other raised hands. Are you, Karen?
I am not.
Okay. Okay. I do see Mr. Reyes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. And I appreciate everyone's comments about the trail today. And I want to thank Scott for his compromise idea. I think it's great. My concern is the trail going through Carlton. What I've noticed in the renderings is that the trail doesn't really connect to anything. It just ends at the school, Delray Woods Elementary. I was principal there for 7 years, so I have an idea of how the families in Seaside and Delray Oaks interact. In speaking with the TAMC representatives, they said, oh yeah, we'd get the Seaside families to be able to visit the park in Delray Woods. I mean, in Delray Oaks. No. Besides Halloween, I see very little interaction between the Seaside families and Delray Oaks families. The TAMC representatives said that it was a natural termine, the school. And that's what I noticed was that's because there just isn't any route past the yellow condominiums in Seaside under the telephone wires. And people can already, without the bike trail, navigate through Delray Oaks and Seaside to get to other bike trails that connect to the TAMC trails. So I want to know why this has to go down Carlton. However, I want to offer a compromise that if the trail is going to go through Carlton, can't TAMC work with the city to not only make a bike trail, but listen to the citizens who live near Carlton and help redesign the road to slow the traffic on Carlton down. I posted my concern and sadness on Nextdoor today and received a lot of support from people all over the peninsula. I had to tell my neighbor yesterday that their cat was run over and the careless driver didn't even stop. And I had to move Sterling's body to the ground by the side of the road, which was really, really sad for me. And I'm still sad about it. So I'm hoping that if there is a trail, that TAMC works with the citizens and city council to make, to create a design that slows the traffic down on Carlton. Speed humps, speed bumps, speed something, but slow the traffic down, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jamie.
Hi there, everyone. Jamie Cecilio, 74 Carlton Drive. And I wanted to thank Councilman Donaldson for hearing our opposition to the proposed trail and tunnel. I really appreciate him taking into consideration everyone's sentiments on this. I love the alternatives that he came up with. And I wholeheartedly love the idea of the trail going down 218 and in effect, slowing the traffic down on 218, which is way overdue between Safeway, crossing, crosswalks, bikes, etc. The traffic is way too fast at 45 and plus because we know everybody goes over the speed limit. That's all I have to say for tonight. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jamie. I am not seeing any hands. Do you, Karen?
No.
Okay. All right. So thank you all for your comments. I'm going to bring it back to the council. There's no action item. So let's start with Vice Mayor Lintel. You're muted. You just turned your camera off. There you go.
I've got it going now. I have nothing further to say, other than I like what Councilman Donald had to say, and I strongly support going down, having the bike trail go down Highway 218. Thank you.
Councilman Gagliotti.
It was very interesting to hear the input this evening. And I think actually it would be probably a good idea to have Councilmember Donaldson join you in that TAMC meeting, because he's been kind of seen as a representative and from, I would call it, the opposition, and an advocate. And so I think he'd be a good participant. Of course, Scott, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to volunteer your time, but I think that would be a good idea for you to join that meeting.
I'm sorry, John, which meeting?
You said that you are setting up a meeting with city councils, city manager, and you with TAMC and with Caltrans, and I think Scott would be a good add to that. It's less than a quorum.
This is a public meeting.
Fine. I think that, but I think as a representative of the city, I think it would be a good idea for him to be there.
Okay. All right. Anything further? John?
No, I think that's good.
Okay. Councilman Donaldson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I completely agree with that. I would love to be part of that meeting, whatever way it is. If it's a special meeting, a closed session meeting, an open meeting, doesn't matter. I would like to be a part of it. I would also say that I would like to see the city manager reach out to both TAMC and FORTAG and ask them if they can provide a presentation at our next meeting where they can discuss from their point of view the alternative of 218, so that our citizens who have put forth this feedback can get some information quickly on that alternative, and maybe some of the advantages, disadvantages, and the feasibility mainly of that type of alternative. So I would put out that I would like to see the city manager reach out to them and get that as a presentation at our next meeting. And thanks to all the people all of our residents that showed up. I know that your voice was given when this first came out. I remember the first meeting where there was a lot of opposition to it. It was in City Hall, and I know you've been at this for a while. So I just appreciate your comments, and I'm hopeful that somehow we can reach a compromise on it. So thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman Shirley.
I want to thank everyone for giving their comments tonight. I am a little saddened in that it sounds like we're having a discussion that we really should have had years ago, because the feasibility of going down 218 was discussed in the EIR, and it was decided that it was not feasible. And so I'm unclear why all of a sudden, just because people are upset about the current route, all of a sudden 218 would become feasible. So that seems like it would need a supplemental EIR or some additional work. And I just don't see the city paying for that. I don't see how that would be feasible. This is a regional project. The city is not paying for this project, and we're talking as if we have the ability to completely change the route of this project, which I think voicing opposition is absolutely fine. But I'm having a hard time understanding why we can all of a sudden come in and make a decision that seems like was already made, way over a year ago. So, I'm willing to listen. I'd love to hear, TAMC present on that. But again, I don't have a lot of faith that is going to happen, because they laid it out in the EIR why 218 was not feasible. So I do want to address Mr. Ray's questions in terms of slowing down traffic on Carlton, and I was saddened to hear about Cheryl's cat as well. I have heard that the Fort Tag Trail, the way it's built, would narrow the lanes and would therefore be traffic calming as well. So I think if we can talk about the problems that we're seeing and finding solutions with Fort Tag, I think that would be great. I know speeding on 218 is an issue, but Fort Tag wasn't created to slow traffic on 218. That's a completely different issue. And for that, we don't own 218. And so we need to go to Caltrans about that. And I think, if we want to move forward with that, then we need to do that. But, combining that with Fort Tag just doesn't seem reasonable to do. So I guess that's all I have to say about that. But, and I want to make sure that we, keep everything safe for our residents. And so crossing 218 on a tunnel is safe, and having a bike trail and a path for our residents is safe as well. So that's it I'd like to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Amy, the public comment period is closed for this, sorry about that. So I wrote copious notes, and there wasn't a lot of new things that I've heard since the various meetings that I've gone to. But the meeting that we've been discussing is with the Frog Pond management, TAMC management, and we will try to get Caltrans there, because a lot of these questions they have to address if they're even feasible. So on that note, I think we are through with this item, but look
I have
forward.
one point.
Hang on just a second. So, so look for the next item on our agenda is a new city manager who is scheduled to arrive on August 10th. We were originally thinking that this would be a special meeting, so we don't have as many time limits and all of that kind of thing, to have these folks come and present. And I am guessing, not knowing their schedules, it would be the beginning of September. So please keep an eye on that. Thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts. Excuse me. And Mr. Gagliotti, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that the leverage that this jurisdiction has is that it needs, ultimately, Fort Tag and TAMC need approval from the jurisdiction in order to accept it, and so that is the lever. And I empathize with Councilmember Shirley's reading. I mean, this happens in development. Is that an EIR goes through an entire public process and everyone seems to accept it, and then in the 11th hour, there's public opposition, and if TAMC and Fort Tag want this trail to be accepted by this community, and they need it, they need our acceptance, then they've got to reopen this. They've got to reopen this part of it. I mean, this is development. This is exactly what happens, and this is not the only development that this has happened before, and it won't be the last. And so there's always, jurisdictions go back to developers all the time and say, sorry, you've got to make a change. And that's generally when developers who have been saying, no, it can't happen, then all of a sudden they realize, okay, well, I guess it can happen. And I think that's the situation that TAMC and Fort Tag will be in. And Caltrans. I don't know if Caltrans wants this thing to happen, but definitely TAMC and Fort Tag do, and they're both very powerful agencies that can, we're banking on them to move mountains for the community, and the community based. The community has last say. I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know. You've used this power before for your own initiatives, so that's the leverage.
Okay, so on that note, let's move to the next item, which is consider city manager contract. So can I turn this over to Alex? Would you?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before you, you have the employment agreement with the new city manager that council has decided to hire. There is, well, and first of all, it's drafted per the council's direction to myself and to our consultant, Kay Pollard. Two quick minor changes on page 3 that were kindly pointed out to me. Section 3.3, there's a mention of 125 days. That should be 125 hours. Section 3.5, council authorized 80 hours of administrative leave at the outset. So with those two changes, the agreement reads pursuant to direction to myself and to Kay with respect to the new city manager, and it's before you for discussion and if you so deem approval.
Thank you. So let's start with Vice Mayor Lintel. You're muted.
You're muted.
There you go.
I found it acceptable with the modifications that Alex has proposed.
Okay, Councilman Gagliotti.
Yeah, I just want to confirm in our negotiations, Alex, all of the terms that we came up with were accepted. And
that is correct. That is correct.
Then I have nothing to comment on it. We got what we wanted, and so did the city manager.
Mr. Donaldson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want the citizens to know that we're getting a highly qualified, very talented individual. And, you know, the terms of this contract are consistent with the previous city manager and others around the peninsula. And like Councilmember Gagliotti said, it was agreeable to both. What I really like about this is it was done using a hiring process that was unanimously approved by this council. And I think that's great. And if John Gurton is online, and I don't know if I see him out there, congratulations to you. We really look forward to you starting work because we got a lot of exciting things going on. And that's all I've got. Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Shirley.
Yeah, I just want to thank Alex and Kay for ushering us through this process. And yeah, thank you for the edits. And I'm happy we're at a place where we have someone who's accepted and we're ready to go. So thanks.
So Mr. Gurton will be coming to us. We'll be starting on August 10th, if this is approved. And he comes to us with years of experience at the county level, Monterey and San Benito, as well as some time with the city of Monterey. So he's heading off to a holiday, a family holiday, day after tomorrow. I will be seeing him tomorrow to start talking about next steps. So I'm looking forward to that. But we, I want to thank everybody for kind of hanging in there with me for the process that I put forward, which seemed like a lot of work, and it was. But I think we need a strong city manager. We had a lot of really good candidates, and we ended up with Mr. Gurton. So I look forward to welcoming him the beginning of August. So on that, let's go out to the public. Any public comment on the contract for the new city manager?
I'm not seeing any.
I'm not either. So I'm going to bring it back to the council, and I would like to move that we approve the contract with the edits Alex mentioned.
Second.
Okay. Karen, can you do a roll call, please?
Sure. Councilmember Shirley.
Yes.
Councilmember Donaldson.
Aye.
Councilmember Gagliotti.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lintel.
Aye.
Mayor Kerr.
Aye. So congratulations, the entire city. We have a new city manager. Okay, the next item is a possible draft letter to the airport district, which was brought by Councilwoman Shirley and myself. I'd like to turn it over to you, if you don't mind.
Sure. For years now, I've had residents contact me about their concerns with the airport. Obviously, it started with the possibility of the road on the north side, but really it has just continued to talk about noise and safety. And I feel like obviously during the pandemic, it was less, but now that people are out and about, it's starting to pick up again. And we're starting to see more low-flying planes. I'm hearing from more residents than just the typical residents. And so for several months now, I've been talking to acting city manager Hoyne about talking with the airport, because I feel like they're our neighbor. Let's get a relationship going so that we can have some communication between us. They're also doing a lot of development there. And so I know that there's some residents that have also been concerned and complaining about the noise they hear from construction. And so I feel like now's the time to engage them in a positive manner and have them help us understand what they're doing at the airport, their policies, their guidelines, and then also give our residents an avenue to talk to the airport. And so I asked acting city manager Hoyne to establish a meeting, and that proved unsuccessful. I don't know if acting city manager wants to share any. You want to share, Jeff, some of that outreach?
Certainly. Thank you, Councilmember Shirley. Because of the residents' concerns related to the noise and construction and low-flying planes, in addition to some safety issues, as we last saw with the terrible tragic plane crash that occurred with an outbound plane from the airport. I have had discussions, both myself and acting chief Berkwin, with some airport staff trying to establish just an informal meeting at first to talk about some of the residents' concerns and see if we could bring the airport and the city together. We reached out over a series of several months, had just very basic initial conversations with them, let them know that the city and council were interested in discussing these things, but we have not been successful in gaining the district's participation in any meeting yet.
So with a lack of response from the airport, I think it's up to us to try and initiate some response. And one of those solutions is an airport roundtable, which originally was addressed in a previous letter that came council that Mayor Kerr sent to the airport. It's also been addressed by our supervisor, Wendy Rudascu, in establishing a roundtable, which is a formal process that other airports engage in the Bay Area. And the purpose of those roundtables is to bring those jurisdictions who are next to the airport together, talk about those issues, and really create a form of formal communication. It's a benefit to the airport, and it's also a benefit to the jurisdictions. And so because this has been an issue with our residents for so long, I just felt, and Mayor Kerr felt, it was important that we bring it to the council to see if we can come to consensus about writing a letter to the airport to provide a solution of creating a roundtable where they can discuss these issues with our residents, and the residents can also have a line of communication with them as well. So I think Mayor Kerr, do you want to add anything else to that?
Yeah, I want to mention that Supervisor Root Askew wrote a letter to the airport asking for a roundtable, and it's included in the agenda packet. And actually the airport roundtable is made up, it's basically a JPA that the airport would run with elected officials, similar to all of our other JPAs that we participate in, that there's someone that goes and yeah, so I mean, the public can go, but it would also be a reporting back mechanism for one of us on the council. They would discuss, you know, their policies and procedures. We would be able to share from our perspective concerns. There's also great value, in my opinion, to having all of the cities there hearing the same thing from the airport. I feel like sometimes it's a divide and conquer, and this would just open up the transparent communication. So our last letter went out May 1st. It was unanimously approved by both the Planning Commission and the City Council, where we requested that as well. Excuse me. So what I would like to do is talk about how everybody feels about doing that to help address the concerns that we think continue to happen. So let's go out for conversation. Pat?
Yes, I think it's a good idea. The airport has repeatedly ignored Delray Oaks's wishes, and I think it's time that we push them a little harder and make them commit to something that would help. Yeah, I get the airplanes over my head, and as others have complained that they can't use their patios and their decks and so on because of the small planes doing their takeoff and landing, or whatever the terminology is. And so I would like to see some pressure put on the airport to enforce, if they would just enforce the regulations that exist, that would be a big help. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I think having them explain the procedures would also be helpful, so we understand what restrictions they're having to work with as well. So, Mr. Gagliotti.
Of course, I think it's a good idea, but I mean, I don't know if irony is the right word, but what this has been, I mean, we've had this interaction with the airport for decades. We've had representatives of the city council joining these things, and in fact, you know, I think it was your campaign, Mayor, that classified this as a, you know, as backroom deals or some kind of, you know, there was all these allegations of Kristen Clark and of Jerry Edlin, you know, in backroom deals with the airport. So I find this pretty rich, actually, that we would, you know, that this would be brought to us and, hey, this is a great idea. I mean, of course it's a great idea, but maybe I warn you that it can be misrepresented very easily. But of course, I mean, I totally think that we should be sitting down with them and having a much closer relationship. I would say that the last two campaigns have actually tainted our very good relationship with the airport in the past. And I suspect that their response to us is in response to that. You know, I mean, we've kind of, you know, if you punch somebody in the nose, they're not necessarily going to be all that, you know, helpful and listening to your concerns. I will say this too, is that the FAA is one of the hardest jurisdictions. I mean, they're one of the most regulated agencies in our whole kind of milieu of regulation or agencies. And that airport can't operate outside the FAA guidelines. I mean, it's absolutely strict. Everything is recorded. And so if for no other good reason that you all learn that and by getting closer and understanding basically the confines that the airport is operating under, or the rules that they're operating under, and how closely they comply to those rules, because their funding is directly related to how well they comply, and they're constantly audited and they constantly have to show that they're living within their rules. The FARs, the CFRs. I think you guys will see it, and I've followed the whole kind of, you know, there was a resident that really kind of had it in for the airport and would quote chapter and verse FARs and was totally wrong, on their representation of that. But this is great. I applaud you guys reaching out to him. I really hope that this repairs the relationship with that board and with that agency. I think they're a valuable asset to us, and to the tune of a few $100,000 a year. And so I think this is a good idea, and I support it.
Great. Mr. Donaldson.
I guess I'm a bit confused. Is there already a draft letter that has been done? Because I don't see it in the packet.
Jeff, can you answer that?
Yes, Mayor, Councilmember Donaldson, there are just draft notes, listing concerns and feedback that we've gotten from citizens and some council members. We will still be working on a draft letter to be circulated and have council review, and of course the city attorney, but that will be in the future. We just wanted to make sure we didn't write anything before we had to change it after getting direction and input from the rest of the council.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I agree. We can definitely benefit from a better relationship with the airport and reestablishing the good communications. But I can also see why the airport is reluctant to do that because of the way they've been treated. I get the complaints too, and I would love to see them do something about it. There's no question. And if it's a roundtable that is going to be used as a forcing function, then okay, I think that's fine. But I think the better approach, just like with anything else, is to reestablish that good relationship, and whatever way we can do that, because people are more apt to listen to what somebody has to say if they're not trying to force them to do it, and it's done out of the context of a good relationship. Those are my thoughts.
Ms. Shirley, anything?
Well, I think this is a good start. I feel like, our residents have been complaining. So I'd like to show that we're making some initiative towards this. A roundtable is an established FAA concept. So we have to kind of go into that territory that we're unfamiliar with, and that's working with the airport. And so we're trying to use an avenue that has been established for this purpose of communicating with the airport and letting the airport communicate with us. And again, I think it's a win-win for both of us. I understand that, maybe there was a good relationship and then there was a bad relationship. And so we're trying to make it better for all of us. And so I think having a letter that goes to the airport is a good place to start, because I have to hear from them and see what they would like to see, in terms of us. And so, we're neighbors. Let's be neighborly. Let's send them a letter. Let them give them a suggestion. And I hope that they respond.
I agree. So let's go out to the public. Does anyone have any comments on a draft letter to the airport district? No, I'm seeing Mr. Clark. You're there.
I don't know. I don't know why Alt Y is not working tonight, but anyway, that's okay. So just so everybody knows that may not know, I'm married to Kristen, Jim Clark, Villa Verde Del Rearks. I'm married to Kristen Clark, who was on the city council for years and years, along with the previous mayor, Jerry Edelin, the city manager, Daniel Pick, Dennis Allion, Louise Getzel. And for those of you that, I don't know, maybe forgot what happened in the last 2 to 3 years, our current mayor and Councilwoman Shirley made it a point of their campaign to just accuse the airport and accuse the city manager and accuse the previous mayor of all these backroom deals. And you know what? Just let me quote Miss Shirley, Councilwoman Shirley right now. Noise and safety, I've been hearing from the Razors, they are our neighbor. Well, where was that feeling when you were having your campaign and no road, DRO, no road, DRO? how neighborly was that? And let's see, now is the time to engage them in a positive manner. It wasn't time 2 years ago to engage them in a positive manner then. We reached out and they didn't respond. I wonder why. If somebody came to my house and beat the crap out of me every day during their campaign, and then 6 months later came back and said, oh, let's be friends, I don't think I'd respond to you either. You know, you talk about having that relationship. Well, the previous people did. And I think that the airport's going to go to the opposite side of heaven before they would ever sit down with you and discuss, unless they hear. And I think this is what one of the council people was deliberating or trying to get through. Unless you sit down and say, you know what, that was a campaign. I was wrong and out of place and I'm sorry. Then maybe they'd shake your hands and say, come sit down at the table with us. Thank you very much.
Mr. Krieger.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm going to be a lot more boring and not nearly as theatrical. But there's just a lot of revisionist history going on here. The airport did not treat Del Rey Oaks well at all. They were negotiating, and you could say in secret, you can say however you want to say it. I don't want to open that can of worms. I will invite you to go and read the emails. The emails, the Freedom of Information Act that were received are posted at opendelreyoaks.net. Go read the emails and you can decide for yourself. There's an awful lot of stuff going on that never made it to a single council meeting, never made it to a single public meeting. When the manager for the airport did manage to get him dragged down to Del Rey Oaks for a meeting, he was extremely dismissive to the citizens of Del Rey Oaks. So I'm not sure where all this great relationship and treatment from the airport's coming from. That was not how they were treating the citizens of Del Rey Oaks. They wanted to build a road through there because they wanted to develop right above our heads and they wanted to make a lot of money. Let's just call it what it is. All right. And if they're still going to hold a grudge over that, well, there's nothing we can do about it, but we can still try. And I applaud the effort for trying to reach out to the airport and try to hold them accountable as much as we can. It's not a lot we have over them, but we can try. They should at least, engage with us, but we'll see. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? I am not seeing any. So let's come back to the council. Ms. Lintel, do you have any thoughts about the letter? What would be contained? Anything like that?
No, I would like to see the letter before it's sent. I believe that we present it to the city council to approve, disapprove, modify, whatever. That's the only thing that I would be concerned about. Thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Gagliotti?
No, I share the same sentiment as Councilmember Lintel. I will say one thing about there was a strong recommendation in the past from Dino and myself regarding the road and how to basically kind of negotiate with the airport, and it was to go sit down with them, and that was meant we had coffees, we went and talked to residents, and the sentiment then was, no, we are not talking to them, we are just sending them a letter that we're opposed and we're not going to sit down. Sitting down with them was seen as accommodation, was seen as some form of acceptance. And it's not. And I think tonight, actually, or this proposal is maybe kind of an acceptance of that concept, is that really, you can still get your way. In fact, you have a better chance of getting your way as a community by sitting down and talking with them and allocating or utilizing diplomacy. And with regard to the road and the development and the anything in the last dealings with the airport, the general sentiment was, and the direction was to the city council, no, freeze them out. So that's the part of this that I find Well, no, you know what I want to keep this in the most positive light. I want to say that we're learning, and we're going to this act right now will hopefully be the first step to improving that relationship with the airport, and hopefully we'll be able to maybe have our wishes heard better, and maybe some actions by the airport made on their part. So.
Thank you. Mr. Donaldson.
Yeah, I agree. And I would just like to see the letter, obviously, and be able to make any type of changes or additions to it. That would be my only concern. Thank you.
Anything last for Ms. Shirley?
Yeah, I just want to say that historically, yeah, sitting down and having coffee, establishing a relationship is okay, but I'd like it done publicly so that our public can see these interactions. And so moving towards a roundtable allows our public to be involved, and it's an open process so that other cities can see what discussions are happening. And again, we're all on the same page. And so I want to move towards transparency. And I think the roundtable does this. So with that, I think I'd just like to make a motion that we ask our staff to write a letter to the airport requesting that they establish a Peninsula Roundtable, for the purposes of addressing ongoing concerns regarding safety and noise and airport policies and guidelines. And that we ask them maybe to review this letter at one of their board meetings and then report back to us about how they feel, or just ask for a letter in response. I would just like this to be a two-way communication. So have something in that letter that asks them to respond to us in some fashion would be good.
I second.
I'll second that.
If I could just add, it might be helpful if maybe you or Councilmember Shirley would try and draft something together that you can give to the staff that kind of encapsulates those thoughts. I think that would be very helpful for the staff, realizing kind of the manning level that we're at, and very appreciated, I would think.
Karen, can you do a roll call, please?
Certainly. Councilmember Shirley,
Yes.
Councilmember Donaldson,
Aye.
Councilmember Gagliotti,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lintel,
Aye.
Mayor Kerr.
Aye, so it passes unanimously. So it's 9 o'clock. I want to check in. The only thing we have left to really consider is the flag policy, and I want to see if everybody is on board to finish.
I am.
Yes.
Okay.
I am as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So consider flag policy. Vice Mayor Lintel and Councilmember Gagliotti, please.
Okay. The city of Delray Oaks has an unwritten practice that they would fly the American flag, then the California state flag, and the city flag at both the City Hall and the old City Hall from the single flagpoles at those locations. Relatively recently, the city also has been flying the Tree City flag. The city does not have a policy addressing the display of commemorative flags at city facilities. Considering requests that the city and surrounding cities have received to fly or display such flags, it is recommended that the City Council discuss particularly allowing some commemorative flags means that the city would need to allow all requests for such flags. The policies adopted by other cities allow the council to retain control over the display of commemorative flags. Because flags and the messages they convey are considered a form of speech, any policy addressing their display must conform with the First Amendment municipal flag policies. Do so by declaring that the city's flagpoles are non-public forums, meaning that they are not intended to serve as a forum for anyone other than the city itself to speak. With respect to commemorative flags, the policy should state that the Such flags are an expression of the city's official sentiments. In the late 2019, Congress passed and the president signed S.693, which now requires that all specific federal properties, the POW and the MIA flag, shall be flown every day on any flagpole on which the flag of the United States is flown. Dennis Allian was kind enough to secure the policies of several cities regarding the flag policy, and they pretty much mirror one another. There are some differences, but the purpose is to establish, comes from the city of Santa Clara, their flag policy, to establish clear guidelines for the exhibition of the United States of America flag, the California state flag, and the city of Santa Clara flag at the city facilities and at City Hall, and to the display of ceremonial flags. Let's see. The city's flagpoles are not intended to serve as a forum for free expression by the public. The city will not display a ceremonial flag based on a request from a third party, nor will the city use its flagpoles to sponsor the expression of a third party. And there is a procedure that outdoor flags shall be flown in the order that I mentioned earlier: U.S. flag, California flag, and then city flag. Flags of ceremonial flags. Flags of governments recognized by the United States may be displayed upon the request of the mayor and the members of the city council or the city manager. And let's see. All ceremonial flags will be no larger than 3 feet by 5 feet and no smaller than 2 feet by 4 feet. And then the San Jose policy is somewhat similar, and whether permitting flags should be displayed daily in front of it or at locations near City Hall, the police administration building and the civic auditorium, the airport, and at fire and police facilities during the business hours. And they list all of their facilities that they should fly. And they have on recognized federal and state holidays and other special occasions, as listed below, flags should be flown from all locations listed in paragraph 2 above. And New Year's Day, Martin Luther King's birthday, President's Day, Mother's Day, Armed Services Day, and so on. And there's quite a number of them. And let's see. Ceremonial flags. The city's flagpoles are not intended to serve as a forum for free expression by the public. The following flags may be displayed at the city as an expression of the city's official sentiments. And the flags of the foreign governments, which I mentioned, flags of sister cities, and flags displayed in conjunction with official ceremonies. San Jose, the Tracy has many similar things. Conformance should be conformance needs to be with federal and state flag regulations. That should be part of the policy. Spokane, many of the same policies. It is the policy of the city of Spokane to correctly honor the flags of the United States, the state of Washington, the POW and MIA recognition in the city of Spokane, and flags of other governmental entities and ensure a standard for flag display on city property. Let's see. So since we don't have a policy and obviously the unwritten practice isn't being followed, I would like to propose tonight, I would like to make a motion that the city council give guidance to the staff to draft.
Pat, we need to go through conversation and public comment before the motion.
Okay, that's fine.
So, great. So, you know, I want to launch in here. Pat, I think this is a great idea. I did my own research and I found a lot of the same things that you did. The fact that we can talk from a city perspective is called the government speech doctrine. And it was defined by the US Supreme Court. The other limitations are we don't have to require neutrality, but we cannot show religious or political preference or encourage a certain vote in an election. The commemoration flag is an exercise of government expression in which we can select. I also saw that either the mayor or the city manager or 2 council members bring it. What I would like to do is have a definition of commemorative. I have found flags by recognition by presidential proclamation, but they have it by day, week, and month. Obviously, we can't do all of those, but if somebody feels very important about American Italian month or something, you know, we can take a look at that. One question is the Tree City flag and where that fits, because the ordinances that I saw limited certain flags to 30 days. So we'll have to take a look at that. And I also saw a lot of will not display flags at the request of a third party or a member of the public. But what I also think should be added to this is a formality about how our flags are utilized. When do we fly them at half-mast? You know, and some of that has to do with generally deaths and things like that, but define who those are. For example, one thing I saw was the death of a current or former city council member, city member or city staff member, or a historically significant member of the community. And so I agree. I think having staff go out and find some and bring us something back to consider is a great idea. So on that, let's go to John.
Yeah, so I brought this with Pat up here, but just because I had a number of residents ask me about it. I mean, most of you know I'm an ardent follower of my family is of the Constitution. So I think that I absolutely agree that we have the First Amendment right basically to fly any flag we want, and I think that the city should support that. But I also respect, and I think we're lacking in policy, and I think that without policy, we stand to run afoul and create potentially chaos, because the First Amendment is it's a messy amendment, and it's written that way. It's supposed to be that way. It's basically supposed to, I can say anything I want, and as long as it's not inciting violence, then you know I have every right to say that, and someone has every right to disagree with it. And I think that so I think that we lack policy. I don't necessarily know that we, the city council, are the body for that. I think that we should probably have staff kind of figure that out. I think that potentially the planning commission is probably the place they come up with ordinances. But I guess that's really kind of it. Is that I think that I totally agree with being able to fly flags on our flagpole. And they could be they could have very different messages. But I think that there should be some policy around that. And that's it. That's really kind of it. That's why I brought this up.
Okay, Mr. Donaldson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I agree that a policy needs to happen. I think that's prudent to do that. That addresses not only physically how we do it, and there's been several suggestions out there. One of the ones that I like that several have brought up is having separate flagpoles. You see that in various different cities, and I think that would work well for us. But to have included in the policy how we would physically display flags, and then also using a lot of the examples that are out there. I mean, you just heard there are several cities that have policies, and take from those things that will work here in our city. And I think it was mentioned by Councilmember Gagliotti. I think the right place for that is the Planning Commission. We already have an appointed body that not only can look at it, but it also allows the opportunity for public comment and public interaction and transparency on what we're doing. So that would be my suggestion, is take those policies that are out there, allow the Planning Commission then to kind of draft and use those parts of those policies that would work best in Delray Oaks, and then bring it through the council for further review and approval.
Ms. Shirley?
Yes, I want to thank Councilwoman Lintel and Mr. Gagliotti for bringing this forward, because I think it's much needed. I'd be very happy if we had a flag display policy in Delray Oaks. And just as Councilwoman Lintel mentioned, when you fly a flag, it does represent the speech of the council. And so I think any flag that is flown needs to be approved by the council. And when I did some research on flag display policies, it seemed as though it was pretty consistent throughout the policies that you would bring, it would be, again, as Mayor Kerr mentioned, it would be either the city manager, it would be 2 council members, or the mayor who would bring that to the council, and then the council would approve whether that flag is flown or not. And typically it's a commemorative flag. So defining what a commemorative flag is, I think, is really important. Having maybe a time limit on that commemorative flag is also important as well. So I fully support our staff moving forward with a flag display policy with those elements. And I think this is a policy that the council needs to approve, since we're the ones who it concerns our speech. So that's it.
John, was that a clap or a hand?
It's a clap, but it's also a raising of a hand.
Okay.
I want to say, so personally, I agreed with, look, why this whole thing got brought to it and why residents approached me was because we flew the pride flag. And there was a general sense that what Councilmember Shirley just said is that council didn't discuss it. They didn't deliberate it. It wasn't brought. It was just basically put forth, and people drove by, and all of a sudden there's a pride flag up there. And that's why that was what people came to me and said, hey, what's going on there? So I agree, the policy, and I think that would have been helpful, that kind of maybe have that dialogue before the pride flag. I would have supported it, but we didn't get that opportunity. We didn't get the public, basically, the opportunity to kind of chime in on that. And there are a number of people within our community that don't support that, and they're, again, First Amendment allows them every right to feel that way. So, and we need to respect that. That's it.
Pat?
Yes, I just wanted to mention some of the things that have been brought up. I just gave you snippets of different policies, but they're very comprehensive and cover everything that was mentioned. And if the staff had whatever they wanted to find, any policies, I can provide the policies that were provided to me. I can forward those on to the staff to help formulate. To help formulate a policy for us, and then we can modify it as we choose after the staff prepares a draft is what I was like. But I wanted to point out that these policies are much more comprehensive. I was just giving little snippets of it. So thank you.
Okay, so let's go out to the public. And I see Amy and Catherine. You're muted. When you're not muted, we all hear you. So
can you hear
Randy,
me?
yeah, but Randy, can you start the time over again? Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. I don't support the pride flag, and because of issues in the past of the council not being sensitive to the needs of the community or the wants, I'm highly suspect of you guys going and working up a policy, because it sounds like you've already made up your minds in support of the pride flag. I don't support the pride flag because it doesn't represent all the citizens of Delray Oaks. In fact, I find the pride flag to be religiously offensive. It flies in the face of traditional Judeo-Christian values. In fact, it is a religion unto itself. The movement is a type of religious movement which tries to coerce and gather in younger people and try to adopt them into a lifestyle, which is highly damaging. The humans are created as male and female. This is supported by science. I feel that it is very harmful to promote these lifestyles, and especially to do it as a city when many residents do not agree with the viewpoint. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ragsdale Cronin.
All right. Good evening, Bill Ragsdale Cronin. I'm on a roll tonight. I was going to be really calm until that last person talked. I am the parent of an LGBTQ person. It is not a religion. It is the way she was born. So to try to palm this off as a religion and an indoctrination as a training is an abomination, and it should never even have been allowed to have been said on this forum. Secondly, I agree that we need to have a policy on flying flags. I mentioned during a budget that we should have 2 flagpoles because the one we got is awful short, so we can put up a nice big one for the American flag, the California flag, and the Delray Oaks flag, and then we could use the other one possibly for these ceremonial or display type flags. Third, it's really sad to me, again, as a parent of an LGBTQ person, that if we have decided to fly Broccoli Month flag, this probably wouldn't have come up. But because we decided to fly the gay pride flag, this came up. It kind of, Dennis has brought it up before, other people have brought it up before. This is a country and a state, and unfortunately now a city that's really divided, and we can't just reach out across the aisle and go, hey, there's some folks that have an alternative lifestyle. They're not pedophiles. They're not out chasing animals down the street. They're not doing anything but what nature is allowing them to do with their own bodies. And like I said, the fact that if we had decided to fly the Broccoli Month flag, we would have probably even be having this conversation. I do support having some kind of a flag policy and being on the planning commission. If you all want to send it that way, I would be happy to be heavily involved with it, because I think we do need to have some guidelines, and we do need to have some transparency on what we're going to fly and why we're going to fly it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Dennis.
You know, it is sad to hear, well, it's just sad the way people interpret things, but I want to thank the City Council for taking this matter up. It is important. It is important to a lot of people that live in this city, as evidenced by the survey that I took personally. And it's not so much a matter of what flag. I think you addressed it earlier, or people commented on it. It was the way you went about doing it. It was not very transparent. It was done sort of through a legal process, but you didn't really seek the input of civilians before, or the citizens, before you went ahead and made this decision. So having the policy is very vital. I'm glad you're going to address it. And I'm sure you'll come up with something that adequately addresses it. I am in favor of the 2 flagpole idea. I think that's totally appropriate. And you're going to offend some people. There's no question about it. No matter what flag you fly, you will offend somebody. There are people who are offended that we're flying the American flag, which I find totally disgusting. And maybe those people need to go live in some other country. But let's, you got some homework to do. Thank you for taking on the task. And I'm sure that you'll come up with a policy that adequately addresses the majority of people's concerns, legitimate concerns. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Kathy.
Hi, hopefully I'm unmuted. This is Kathy Pelazzolo. I live on Angeles, and I'm glad you guys are thinking about proper way to display flags. I think there's a large part of our population, especially retired military, that find it offensive to have any kind of flag flown with the American flag and not, the proper, American flag, state flag, city flag. So the idea of a second flagpole is really a wonderful, wonderful idea. Then you can fly these flags without upsetting a certain population that believes that there is a protocol for how you fly flags. I know that there's no real place for this, but I'm going to say this. Many of my friends are LGBTQ, and I found those other comments offensive. So I thank you guys for flying that flag. I think it should have been flown on a separate flagpole, but I thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. Frederica.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I wanted to thank you for considering all of our to our family, friends, and our neighbors.
Frederica, we're having I'm having a hard time. Frederica, we're having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, did you get to hear any of my?
No, but now you're clear.
Let me just start over.
Okay, Randy, can you
I'll
start
go over, you
over,
don't have
please?
No, that's well, okay.
Go.
I just wanted to thank you both. There and as our
Frederica, I'm afraid it's still happening. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Let's go to Jim Clark.
Hi, Jim Clark, Roy Oaks. That was very interesting. What does commemorative mean? I actually had to look that up myself. Acting as a memorial, as in, and this is my pitch to get this in next year, the Peace Officers Memorial flag, that flies in May, or as a mark of an event, which I would assume like Pearl Harbor, or a person, which I would assume might be Martin Luther King. I don't know if there is one for that. But
yes, by all means, if we're going to decide that we're going to do this, and if we're going to decide that we're going to spend money to be able to do it, then we've got to have some kind of process or procedure, or we can just decide that we're not going to fly any other flags and avoid all that extra work and all that extra, money. Either way, it doesn't matter to me, but that is an alternative that the council should consider. And see, it's too late and the brain's just not working. I didn't write down, but anyway, yeah. Thank you again for your service, guys, and for all that you wade through to make all this happen.
Any other public comment? Okay, so let's come back to the council. I would like to make a motion that we direct staff to put together a flag policy for us to consider, let's say September. That way our new council or our new city manager can take a little time to do that.
Mayor, would you consider allowing the planning commission instead of the
Yeah.
staff to do it?
Can you explain to me why the planning commission would take on a flag policy?
Yeah, just like with any policy,
Yeah.
I think it's an appropriate action for them. And, it's their ability as an appointed body to take a look at other policies that are out there. Kind of, like I said, pull together something that would be appropriate for us, or, would meet the needs of the city. And it also gives the opportunity for the public to be part of that process and thus the transparency with it.
I'm
And-
fine with it.
Okay.
I'm fine with it.
Okay, good. All right, good.
And
So let's, Mayor, would you restate your motion?
that we ask the planning commission to draft a flag policy for our consideration.
Okay, and that means that they'll do some research and then draft it. Yeah.
And
I'll second.
I would like it in September.
You want it done in September?
Yeah. Is that too quick?
I would recommend that you allow the chair of the planning commission to kind
Yeah,
of set out a, depending on what type of, workload, whatever they've got going on, allow them to determine a suspense date on it to be done as soon as possible, obviously.
Yeah.
Ms. Shirley?
Well, their last meeting was 19 minutes. So I don't know what they have coming up, but I would like to have it done as soon as possible. So, our acting city manager might be able to have some thoughts on that, on when that could get onto their plate.
I'm going to defer to Karen. Karen's been working on planning commission agendas and knows what's coming up and has other insight.
So for the August 11th meeting, there are 4 items on that agenda.
Okay.
As you all know, that's a lot for the planning commission. It's 3 additions and 1 variance.
Okay. So as soon as possible.
Perfect. I'll second that.
Pat?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I would be happy to forward to the chair of the planning commission the policies of the cities that Dennis has provided to me, to give them an idea, and then they can seek out any other cities and so on. But this gives a pretty good outline of the typical planning commission. I mean, typical policy for flying flags.
Okay. So Karen, can we do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Shirley?
Yes.
Councilmember Donaldson?
Aye.
Councilmember Gagliotti?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lintel?
Aye.
Mayor Kerr?
Aye. So it passes unanimously. Okay, let's move on to staff reports. Acting city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, and everyone else who's remaining. I'm going to make this really quick. We're doing a lot of work. and we're getting a lot of work done. And I would like to thank Karen and Randy, as I've been out of town on training, and they have been running the city in my absence. We chat on the phone and we do a lot of emails, but thank you very much. Couple of things I would just like to point out that when it comes to policies that like we're talking about, we're on our way to get a new personnel manual and a new records retention schedule and policy, which is something I think the city's been in sore need of, and we've started that process and we're on our way. I'd also like to give some congratulations to our police department. Several months ago, we had several car burglaries at the Oaks condominiums. We had limited information, including a partial license plate. Our patrol detectives spent several months tracked down the suspects through running multiple plates, looking for surveillance video and other things. It ended up in a search warrant where the suspect was arrested and confessed to those burglaries. So we have filed that case for the DA and solved that case. Additionally, as referenced earlier, the Safeway is a very important asset that we have in our city. They had their bathroom vandalized quite seriously a few months ago, and Patrol Detective Moore was able to develop a suspect lead out of very little evidence, and that subject was arrested as well. So they're following up on just about every case they can and getting good results. And they're just doing a heck of a job, and I think council and citizens need to know that. Other than that, thank you very much, and that concludes my report.
All right. I just want to, we'll do something more formal, but I just want to give a big round of applause to our acting city manager, who jumped in to a pretty chaotic scene and did a darn good job keeping us on track. We've had a lot of stuff go on under your stead, and so I just want to thank you for that. So on that, mayor and council reports are in the agenda. I have been on vacation for 2 weeks, and we weren't expecting this meeting, so my report will be doubly big next month. Correspondence, please take a look. Our next meeting date is Tuesday, August 24, 2021 at 6 p.m. On that, we are adjourned. Thank you all for your time this evening.
Good night.
Thank you, Jeff.
Good night. Thank you, Karen.
Good night.
And thank you,
Night,
Jeff.
everybody.